The regular meeting for the Aurora City Council for Monday, October 9th, 2023 is called to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Kaufman.
Here.
Councilmember Bergen.
Here.
Councilmember Coombs.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Gardner.
Here.
Councilmember Drinsky.
Here.
Councilmember Lawson.
Here.
Councilmember Marcano.
Present.
Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Councilmember Murillo.
Present.
Councilmember Sundberg.
Here.
And Councilmember Zvonek.
Here.
There's a quorum.
Announcement from the public call-in line.
City Council welcomes feedback from the public on both matters appearing on the agenda and during public invited to be heard. If you would like to speak and have not already spoken to an operator, please press *3. For those watching on Channel 8, call 855-695-3475 and press *3 when connected. You will hear a prompt confirming you are in line to speak to an operator and then be able to continue listening to the meeting. When the operator comes on the line, please be ready to give them your name and agenda item you wish to speak on. Keep in mind you must press *3 before the city clerk reads the title of the item you wish to speak on. Finally, as a reminder, council does not allow comments about any items on the agenda during public invited to be heard. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes, and public invited to be heard is limited to 1 hour in total.
El Consejo Municipal de la Ciudad de Aurora da la bienvenida a la opinión de sus habitantes y otros vecinos en asuntos comparecientes en la agenda y durante la invitación a la audiencia. Esta sesión tiene disponible interpretación en español. Por favor, háganos saber si usted necesita este servicio. Recuerde que el Consejo no permite comentarios de la audiencia mientras se dirigen asuntos de la agenda del día. Por favor, confirme su turno y espere a la invitación para comentario público. Gracias.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And without objection, I'd like to move invocation and moment of silence after proclamations and ceremonies. It will be moved. Approval of the minutes for September 20th, 2023. A motion is in order.
Mayor, I move to approve the minutes.
It's moved by Councilmember Sundberg, seconded by
Coombs.
Councilmember Coombs. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, call for the question on the adoption of the minutes from September 25th, 2023.
Mayor Kaufman.
Mayor votes yes.
The motion passes to adopt the council meeting minutes of September 25th, 2023.
Dale Holden, Aurora Chapter, President of National Federation of the Blind. Please come down. Whereas many blind, visually impaired persons move self-reliantly on our public streets, roads, and at places of public accommodation using their white canes or guide dogs, and whereas the white cane, which every blind citizen has a right to carry, is a safety instrument that demonstrates and symbolizes the ability of blind people to achieve a full and independent life, their ability to travel independently, and their capacity to work productively in competitive employment, and whereas Colorado's white cane law is the right to open access to public places and protection from discrimination based on blindness or visual impairment, And whereas Colorado law calls upon employers, both public and private, to be aware of and utilize the employment skills of our blind citizens by recognizing their worth as individuals and their productive capacities. And whereas the state of Colorado and the city of Aurora, through their public agencies and with the cooperative assistance of the National Federation of the Blind of Colorado and its local chapters, can and should facilitate the expansion of employment opportunities for and greater acceptance of blind persons in the competitive labor market. Now, therefore, I, Mike Hoffman, Mayor of the City of Aurora, do hereby proclaim October 15, 2023 at White Cane Awareness Day and encourage Aurorans to recognize that persons with disabilities have much to offer, and their energy, creativity, and hard work can greatly strengthen our city and our economy. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Aurora, Colorado to be fixed this 9th day of October 2023. Mike Hoffman, Mayor of Aurora, Colorado. Now,
Well,
now I'm going to give you the microphone. There you go.
here we go. Oh, you'll have it back. I'm president of the Aurora chapter of the National Federation of the Blind of Colorado, and we meet once a month with a group of us, roughly 20 of us are members of the chapter, and our big efforts are to inform the community and the people around us that we are just like the rest of you. And we appreciate the proclamation being signed by the Mayor Kaufman, and invite anybody that would like to come to our meetings to get in touch with me, and I'll give you the information on it.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you very much. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Officer James Seneca. Whereas the City of Aurora acknowledges that we gather on the territories and ancestral homelands of the Cheyenne, Ute, Arapaho, and Lakota peoples, past and present, and we also recognize the 48 contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to the lands that make up the state of Colorado, and whereas the indigenous peoples and tribal nations of the United States of America have been and continue to be the original stewards of the land upon which we and our nation sit, and whereas for nearly 250 years, indigenous peoples have fought to protect their land, their religious, spiritual, and sacred burial grounds, and preserve their tribal communities and rich cultural and religious practices and traditions, and whereas, despite removal from their religious and spiritual grounds, displacement and systemic assimilation, citizens and these tribal nations have made invaluable contributions and served this country in innumerable ways, including in our armed forces, public service, business, scholarship, and the law. And whereas the celebration of indigenous history, culture, and contributions reflects the City of Aurora's commitment to elevating the voices of indigenous peoples and making good faith efforts to promote dignity and justice for our Native communities who created and cared for the land on which we now reside. Now, therefore, I, Mike Hoffman, Mayor of the City of Aurora, Colorado, do hereby proclaim October 9, 2023 as Indigenous Peoples Day, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Aurora to be fixed this 9th day of October 2023. Mike Hoffman, Mayor of Aurora, Colorado. Thank you so much.
Just real quickly, I'm a proud member of the Aurora Police Department for the past 28 years. I'm very humble. Thank you. I'm very humble and grateful to be invited today on this very special day on this Indigenous People's Day. Thank you to City Council for acknowledging that, and Mayor Kaufman. Both my parents, half my family's from Canada. I grew up in Buffalo, New York. My mother's from the Mohawk tribe in Ashwaubenon, Ontario. I have many cousins in Canada, and my father was raised in the Cattaraugus Reservation near upstate New York. I gratefully accept this on behalf of all Indigenous people, especially my parents, who were both products of the boarding school controversy, and they're survivors, and I humbly accept this proclamation on behalf of all of them. Thank you very much.
I'd like to now, given the tragic events in Israel, I'd like to yield to the only member of the Jewish faith on the Aurora City Council, Council Member Danielle Jurinsky, to share a few words with us.
So what we witnessed over this past weekend in Israel is absolutely a terrorist attack. You're going to hear people call it resistance fighters. You're going to hear people refer to them as freedom fighters. This was absolutely an act of terrorism. And I heard tonight that if the equivalent of lives lost in Israel this weekend, if that attack were to happen and it equated to our population here in the United States, it would have been a loss of 300,000 people. That is the significant impact of the loss of life that just happened in Israel. I would like to read a prayer first in Hebrew and then in English for the state of Israel, and then I would like everybody to stand for a moment of silence in solidarity with Israel. Amienu Avinu Shebashamayim Uva Aritz Shur Yisrael Vigoalo Barik et Midinat Yisrael Shetai Lerishit Tismigat Gialutenu. Our source, our Father in heaven and on earth, Rock of Israel and its Redeemer. Bless the state of Israel so that she may become the beginning of the flower of our redemption. Please stand for a moment of silence and solidarity with Israel. Thank you all so much. Please continue to say prayers. As the state of Israel moves forward, they have declared war, and the loss of life on both sides is going to be astronomical, and please just continue to pray. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Jurinsky. Public invited to be heard.
First, we have Charlie Richardson, followed by Ryan Fields. Okay, Ryan Fields.
Right here, right? Okay. All right. Well, we're all, well, ones in the middle anyway, are here for in opposition of this community center building that our board wants to put in our community.
I'm sorry. So this is just only for agenda item. This is for any issues that are not on the agenda. That item is on the agenda, and you'll be able to speak when that item comes up.
Okay, great.
Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, Chalea Fields.
And that's item 12A.
Okay, Brandon Waring. Same. Okay, Tina Hawes. Same. Kyla Roschke.
Good evening. My name is Kyla. I'm a resident of District 1 in Aurora. I'm here today to speak about Jordell Richardson, a 14-year-old black child killed by APD on June 1st of this year. I'm here to remind the City Council members and also voice my support of some of the wishes of Jordell Richardson's family, which are to fire and charge the officers who killed Jordell and fire the interim police chief who spread misinformation about the case and Jordell to both his family and the public. I've read DA John Kellner's report on why his office decided not to file any charges against the officers. Reiterating my disagreement with the decision, there are a couple of things I want to call attention to from that report. First, the report states the suspects apprehended at the scene stated Jordell thought his fake gun was real, and Officer Gruszewska states Jordell was struggling for control of the fake gun. However, the report also says that due to the position of the body-worn camera, the placement of Officer Gruszewska's hands and the individual's hands are not visible at the time Officer Gruszewska fires his weapon. The report goes on to continue to claim that Jordell was struggling for control of the fake gun, even though the only evidence of such are the words of the officer. I want to point out that all the information is hearsay about a 14-year-old child with no video or recorded evidence. And those who stated the information are people who could benefit from it. And of course, there's no way to confirm any of it now, as this child's chance to explain his actions and his side of the story was taken away from him when he was shot and killed by a police officer. Second, the report states that Officer Snap originally yelled to Jordell he would use a taser on him, proving the officers had non-lethal means available to them. Officer Gruszewska chose instead to shoot this 14-year-old child. While DA Kellner and the APD are acting like the report shows that Jordell's death was justified, what stays with me about the report is that the decision is based on others' words and can never factor in Jordell's account of what happened, and the report chooses to completely ignore that fact. Jordell was a 14-year-old child who should have gotten the chance to learn from his actions, and the fact that our justice system has found his killing to be justified is disturbing, and I ask for it to be revisited. Jordell's family is asking APD for accountability. I want to again voice my support for their wishes for the officers involved to be charged and fired, as well as for the interim police chief to be fired, and ask all of you to push for the same. As you discuss the future of the APD, I also implore you to listen to the voices of those impacted most, like Jordell's family. Thank you for your time.
Tanya Tabachek.
Good evening, Mayor Kaufman and council members. First, I just want to offer my prayers to Israel and all those there in the military and so forth. Second is, again, this past Sunday, Concord is the famous place for street racing. Yep, they just seem to like twirl around 9 o'clock at night until an hour and a half later. I'm just thankful that no one, as of yet, has been shot or killed in that area. I, as always, call the police, just let them know, and so does my mom, because we're trying to prevent something from possibly happening. This is our street, this is our neighborhood. Just like going down Colfax towards Denver, you see the street, ATVs riding down the street with bikes and stuff. In the past, in Aurora, that was not seen in Aurora. These people think that they have one up on us. They think they could rule us as citizens and how we feel and kill those or hurt those that are important to us. We as citizens and you as council members, we need to do something about this. We need to stand and take our city back and not let this happen. Thank you.
Robbie DeYoung.
Mayor, City Council, I stand with Israel. This is a really rough time of year for me. Almost a year ago, a friend of the family was driving her truck with her daughter next to her 21-year-old daughter. They were at the wrong place at the wrong time. Two people jumped out of a disabled stolen vehicle and proceeded to their vehicle. They both, the male and the female, that were running from the police, pulled out their firearms and shot into Paige and Tyler's truck. They narrowly missed the mom. I mean, the bullet actually went through, both bullets went through the back of her seat and hit Tyler. She bled to death. These two people are still awaiting their trial. I can't speak any more on that, but we have to do something, whether it's street racing, whether it's abandoned vehicles, whether it's stolen vehicles, whether it's locked or unlocked, or whether it's in your garage or it's out on the street. We need to do something about this criminal group. I'm trying to mince my words here and try and be as polite as I can and respectful as I can. But I have seen firsthand what these criminals can do. And yes, they deserve their time in jail. And yes, we can arrest our way out of a lot of this. Because if there's no consequences, they have carte blanche and can do whatever they want. Now, just a little side note, the group that I monitor and run through next door, I had my First Amendment rights taken from me, and I am banned for a month because I voiced my opinion on the main group. Okay. So now my group is being run by some other people that are there to help, but I am still 24/7 for stolen and abandoned vehicles in Colorado.
Okay, now we have some callers on the call-in line.
Susan, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm Susan Tabachek, and I'm calling in concern, deeply concerned, about the activities that are happening at Concord on Sundays around 10 p.m. They are young adults and older adults, and they race around, they spin their cars, they stand in the middle of the cars speeding in a circle around them on Sunday nights. Usually around 10 o'clock, that's a good time. Now, the street by Concord has become a place for trucks and cars with lights on watching that whole street now next to Concord. Now, Concord's on Havana and First, and then you have that side street. My concern is also there are new apartments going up directly across. I wonder who will want to live there and feel safe. My special needs son likes to go for a ride, and he waits for his sister to come home to take him. Just a minute, getting my breath. And he likes the business lights, so we go on Havana to get poppers and root beer. Someone is going to get hurt. I called it in for welfare check. I have called it in almost every Sunday because you know what? I live on Kenton, and I can hear it all the way here to Kenton. And I just wonder, what's going to happen? What's it going to take? And, you know, when we went home this last Sunday after I called it in, they were hanging out at the Conoco Phillips on Alameda. Now, I want to know, has Aurora turned this over to these rowdy people? Do the cops, can't they drive up Havana around 10 p.m. on Sunday night? Can't we get their license plates numbers? And as you say, I thought there was a new rule. They would have their cars taken away, but obviously not. And Medina, I challenge you to go there on Sunday at 10 p.m. Just pop up without them knowing it. Do it more than once. And how would you like it? I want you to see it. Okay, thank you for listening to me, Mayor Kaufman and council members. And my heart also is with Israel. And I love the proclamation. Fantastic. Thank you. Bye.
Next, we have Sabrina. Sabrina, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Sabrina, and I'm a member of Denver Aurora Community Action Committee. It has been 130 days since Jordell Richardson was murdered by police officers Rock Bruseca and James Knapp. Jordell Richardson was 14 years old when his life was violently taken away. This fall, he would have started his first year of high school with his friends. These upcoming holidays, he would have spent with his family making beautiful, long-lasting memories together. But now both his family and friends have to do these things without him by their side. It is an absolute tragedy what Jordell's family has been put through. The family demands that officers Rock Bruseca and James Knapp be fired and indicted, and that Chief Art Acevedo be fired. Yet nothing has been done. DA John Kellner has shown that he refuses to help the family get the justice that they are owed. Kellner has even stated that the officers were justified in killing a 14-year-old child. He has continued to show to the family and to the rest of the community that cops can indiscriminately kill children and they will face no punishment. How long will the family have to wait until they get justice? Jordell didn't deserve this. His life mattered and it still matters. Please don't turn a blind eye to this. We need these officers and the police department to be held accountable. We need community control of the police. We need justice for Jordell Richardson. Thank you.
That was the last person.
Motion is in order for the adoption of the agenda. Councilmember Bergen.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to allow the applicant presentation as well as the appellant presentation that would happen during 12A for the Rocking Horse.
15 minutes.
Yes, they would each have 15 minutes.
Okay, very well. Second is?
Zvonik.
Seconded by Councilmember Zvonik. Discussion? Seeing none, call for the question on the adoption of the agenda.
Mayor Koff.
Mayor votes yes.
Thank you. The motion passes to adopt the agenda with the appellant presentation for item 12A.
Clerk, now please read the title to item number 9A.
Mayor, that was a part of the adoption of the.
Okay, very well. 15-minute presentation.
Oh, no, that's during 12A.
I'm sorry.
That'll happen later during 12A.
Okay, very well. The next item before us is the adoption of the consent calendar of motions, item number 10A1 to 10C1.
Mayor, motion to approve 10A1 through 10C1.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Gardner, seconded by?
Coombs.
Seconded by Councilmember Coombs to adopt the consent calendar, item number 10A1 to 10C1. Discussion? Seeing none, call for the question on the adoption of the consent calendar, item number 10A1 to 10C1.
Mayor Kaufman.
Mayor votes yes.
The motion passes to adopt the consent calendar for motions.
Consent calendar resolutions and ordinances, item number 11A1 to 11A8.
Mayor, we have a few individuals who have signed up to speak on items 11A2, 11A3, 11A5, 11A6, and 11A7.
I'm sorry, 11A2, 11A3,
5, 6, and 7.
Mayor,
Councilmember Coombs.
I would additionally like to pull 11A1 and 11A8.
11A1 and 11A6. Oh, 11A8. Very well. Adoption of the consent calendar, item number 11A4, 11A6.
Mayor, the public invited, or the public comment, they can comment without us pulling the agenda items unless council wants to pull those.
I'm sorry.
Mayor.
Mayor, just because there's a public comment doesn't mean it has to be pulled off of consent. It's
Very well.
Mayor.
Councilmember
Then
Coombs.
I would also like to pull 11A6.
Okay, let's be clear again on what we're pulling. Clerk, could you state again the items that council members have asked to be pulled?
So Councilmember Coombs would like 11A1, 11A6, and 11A8 pulled from the consent calendar.
Okay. I'm sorry.
And then we have public comment right now for 11A2. So Aaron Futrell, you have 3 minutes.
Very well. Let's proceed with public comment.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on this item. Usually it's my uncle who is my family's representative speaking, but he's getting ready to speak at the groundbreaking tomorrow of the VA hospital named after my grandparents. My family wants to say thank you for the suggestion of this resolution. It is a true honor. As a kid, I remember helping my grandmother run her first race. Sorry, I'm getting choked up talking about my grandmother, sorry, because I'm engaged civically solely because of her. And being a kid at about 12 years old, having my father walk out and my grandmother go, "Surprise, I'm running for the Aurora City Council." That was fun. I remember walking with the Honorable Mayor Webb. He gave her the idea to basically go and knock on every single door that we possibly could think of out here in Aurora. The first time she ran, she lost, but she kept at it. Second time she ran, in 1991, she won and created a lasting legacy for a lot of people here on council. I remember watching Wheel of Fortune with my grandfather and then watching my grandmother battle with Mayor Tower, sometimes with you, Mayor Kaufman. I'm not saying that she always won. There were times that you were right, she was wrong, especially with the trailers. I lost my best friend when you guys passed the ordinance for the trailers to be banned way back in the day. My best friend actually had the best funnel cake business here in Colorado. I've got to say that. But they had to move because you guys banned that trailer and she was one of the deciding votes. I was mad at her. But that's my grandmother. She was very tenacious, just like I am. But I'll also talk about my grandfather. My grandfather, just another amazing community member like my grandmother. I literally work right across the street from where he worked in the Federal Center now, out in Lakewood. I have countless reminders of him every day, whether I'm with a friend at the Stanley Market and look at the mural, or whether a friend from the church that I've called home for 25 years says, "Oh, I go to John Mosley P through 8. They were amazing people, and I know I don't always agree with everything that you guys say on council, but I do remember having specific conversations with some of you guys and hearing how much my grandparents inspired you and your service to the council. It is not lost on me or my family, and we thank you. I guess that's my 3 minutes. I can't finish. Thank you. I'm in support of this.
Janet Buckner for item 11A3.
Mayor Kaufman, Pro Tem Bergen, and City Council members, I am Senator Janet Buckner, but tonight I am Janet Buckner, wife. Sorry. But tonight I am Janet Buckner, wife of John W. Buckner. The Honorable John W. Buckner was a mainstay in the community. His life and career were dedicated to ensuring every child and student was seen, heard, respected, and treated fairly, that every student got the best education possible and had a pathway to succeed, that every adult lived their life with a sense of pride and purpose for the good of mankind. John W. Buckner was a courageous man. He was a family man and true friend to countless people. He was a mentor, community advocate, state legislator, and he loved Aurora. He was not one who wanted the spotlight, and he let his light shine through his good deeds and works and the countless lives he touched. I am constantly reminded of how instrumental John Buckner was in the lives of so many kids and young adults, because a month doesn't go by when someone doesn't walk up to me and say, "Mrs. Buckner, your husband kept me from dropping out of school. Mrs. Buckner, your husband touched my elbow and made me drop to my knees when I was in trouble." That was a cool move that he always did. Even to this day, adults come up to me and they do like this, they cover their elbows, because he knew how to control kids when they were having issues. He also helped so many kids. There are so many famous kids today who feel that their success came from my husband. If he were alive, he would say the naming of a street is really not necessary. I just wanted to make a difference. Well, he did, and our family, friends, and the community will smile and reminisce every time they drive down the street that will be designated in his honor. Now we can truly continue his legacy, even though he is no longer here. So thank you for listening to me tonight, and it would be an honor if this street could be named after my husband, so no one will ever forget him. Thank you.
Michael Carter for item 11A5.
All right. First of all, good evening to each and every one of the members of the council. I will try to be brief. I know the position that you guys are in, but I want to say two things. One, this is a small world, based on the fact that one of my mentors is here, Janet Buckner, to have a street named after her husband, and I didn't even know that was going to happen. And two, the public defender who hired me, the first man who gave me my shot as an intern in the public defender's office, is sitting back there, and he doesn't even know. I guarantee you he doesn't remember. For those who don't know, my name is Michael Carter. I'm a current criminal defense attorney and former public defender. From the moment I first appeared inside of a courtroom, I knew that public defenders were different, and I knew that I was one because I was different. Now, the public defender's office are members of that three-legged stool of district attorneys, judges, and public defenders that should all be held to the highest standard, but they're each needed with competence and should always be given the opportunity to learn and be a part of the system. I rise against privatizing any type of public defender's office. I want to make sure that you guys understand that the beauty of our system is specifically, it comes with this built-in governor. It comes with this built-in, hold on, wait a minute, we want someone to take a look at that. We want someone to slow down. We want someone to take care of the most marginalized people in our society. We need someone for the homeless, for the mental health, for the people with mental health issues. We need someone to look at those issues. And while the public defender's job is first and foremost to follow the law, we also become social workers. We become guidance counselors. We become all sorts of things. What I want you to know is two things in closing, and like I said, I'm going to try to keep it short. What I would tell my clients when I was a baby public defender, I would say, okay, watch. 5 o'clock, it's going to change. See, at 5 o'clock, the judge wants to go home, clerk wants to go home, the DA wants to go home, because it's their job. And at 5 o'clock, they're ready to go. But at 5 o'clock, I'm not, because this is my calling. My calling doesn't change because of the time. My calling doesn't change because we've been here for 6, 7 hours. That's what it means to be a public defender. And the last thing I'm going to tell you guys is one of my favorite quotes. It's by Cornel West, and it's, justice is what love looks like in public. It's how we treat each other and how we treat the least of us. Once again, I rise against any type of privatization of the Public Defender's Office.
Okay, and for the record, Michael Carter spoke on 11A6, not 11A5. Tom Tobiason, 11A6.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on 11A6. My name is Tom Tobiason. I'm a 35-year resident of Aurora, living in Ward 5. I've served on many boards and commissions. Tonight, I'm coming here as the chairman of the Public Defenders Commission. I've been on the commission for about 5 years, and we've done a lot of good things for the city of Aurora in terms of representation of indigent populations, indigent people that come before our court, and I did not realize Mr. Carter was going to be speaking, but he was very eloquent in his speech. But the Public Defenders Commission is made up of 4 attorneys that are very experienced public defenders and 3 Aurora citizens. And we have right now by city ordinance the ability to hire and fire the chief public defender and his deputies. And we have this power, which is enshrined in Colorado CRS 13-10-114-5 and City of Aurora ordinances 50-166 through 172. We basically create a firewall between the political side of the city and the defense side of people that are going before the courts. And so we are the buffer. Basically, the defendants have a constitutional right through the 6th
went out.
Okay.
So whatever this glitch was, I don't know.
So I need some guidance from the clerk. Is 10-minute recess?
Let me check to see if I've heard anything from Aurora TV.
I'm sorry. What?
I can check to see. We can continue with public comment.
Okay, please proceed.
Proceed, did you say? I could
Please
tell if it was
proceed,
proceed or be seated. Mayor Kaufman, members of the City Council, I appreciate a few minutes to speak with you. My name's David Kaplan, and I was the state public defender for the state of Colorado from 2000 to 2007. I sit on the State Public Defender Commission, and I am a member of the Aurora Public Defender Commission, and I come before you with that title. I don't consider myself having great expertise in many areas, but the one area I do feel fairly competent in is evaluating the providing of indigent defense services to the community. And I'm here to ask the council before it goes with an RFP to really what Mr. Tobiasen said, is to do what it takes to talk to the commission about the work that we've done, the competency of the organization that you have going in this city, and to determine whether really an RFP, which starts the process of contracting involving a different provider of indigent services to begin. And I think what you'll find is that that's not necessary. What I'm here to tell you is that what's happening in Aurora right now with the Public Defender Commission is you've created a national model for providing these kind of services. I was around when the Denver Municipal Court had a kind of system RFP would seek, and it wasn't particularly effective. It was actually a stepping stone to the very organization that you folks have put together here in Aurora. And what it does, aside from what was being already discussed with you, is it allows for whatever the Aurora City Council does in law enforcement, in crime management, that you know that there's an organization out there that will keep in check the power of the government when it comes to charging its citizens with crimes. And having this kind of effective provider of indigent services is something that this city and this council could be very proud of. And so before, as I said, you proceed with something like that, I think you should take a moment and see from the commission members who would be happy to report to all of you what was done and how well it's doing, because it does supply the indigent defense that is constitutionally mandated. It has already done a caseload work study that it could talk to you about what it was found, what we found out about it, that we were told that the Public Defender Commission here in Aurora is about as effective and efficient of an organization you can have to provide those services. It allows to address some of the things that were in the consent decree, that you can feel confident that Aurora is doing things in this neck of the woods that addresses some of the problems that Aurora has had in this area. And it is all done in a manner that, as I've said, you can be very proud of. So I guess my final ask is, rather than pass this RFP to look for something else, to give us an opportunity to speak with you.
And council, we confirmed with Aurora TV that they are back on.
Very well.
Okay, and then we have Elizabeth Cadiz for item 11A6.
Mayor,
Councilmember
point
Cruz.
of order, can Ms. Cadiz just be a speaker on this item since it's her department under discussion, rather than giving public comment right now when we have staff come up to present? Can she just also be present to answer questions?
Mayor?
Okay.
Sorry, I'm also hearing from constituents that the TV's not back on, that they have picture, but they don't have audio.
Okay, thank you for letting us know. We'll get in contact with them. And then, yes, Elizabeth, if you are staff, then you don't have to fill out a public comment card.
Oh, I did.
Okay.
So we have item 11A7, Tanya Tabachek.
Good evening again, Mayor and council members. I just wanted to let you know I'm in opposition of this proposition HH. I spoke to my dad about it, and he was talking about that it just wouldn't be relevant with him lowering the property taxes and so forth and taking money from else, the refunds from elsewhere. So I'm just letting you know that my me and my dad are opposed to it. Thank you.
Okay, and another update, Aurora TV is working on the audio issues right now. And so that is the last public comment for consent calendar. And we had a motion, I believe, from Councilmember Coombs to approve the consent calendar with items 11A1, 11A6.
Okay.
Well, it's not true the council's in the dark.
Nice.
Very well.
Mayor, I'm sorry. I just heard from another constituent that the audio is bad. They're asking that we recess until the audio is fixed.
Time is now 7:21. Council will stand in recess until 8:05. What's that? Council for Monday, October 9, 2023 is back in session. And continuing with public invited to be heard.
Okay, so we were informed by Aurora TV that you can hear the audio on the YouTube channel and on Channel 8, but their live stream, they're still working on that audio. Okay, so
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
no.
Okay. The motion before us then is the adoption of the consent calendar resolutions and ordinances 11A2, 11A3, 11A4, 11A5, I'm sorry, 11A4, 11A6, not 11A5.
Yes.
Mayor, can I clarify?
Councilmember Coombs.
I'll just restate the motion. I'm actually going to leave 11A1 alone because we have a lot of business tonight. So it'll be 11A1 through 11A5 and 11A7. That's the motion to approve those items.
11A1 through 11A5. And 11A7. The motion before us is the adoption of the consent calendars for resolutions and ordinances. Items 11A1 through 11A5 and 11A7. Now, motion is in order.
Mayor.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Very well. Okay. It's moved by Councilmember Coombs, seconded by?
Marcano?
Seconded by Councilmember Marcano. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the consent calendar for resolutions and ordinances, item 11A1 through 11A5, and item 11A7. Call for the question.
Councilmember Zvonek? Oh, thank you. Councilmember Sundberg? Thank you. The motion passes for the consent calendar resolutions and ordinances with items 11A6 and 11A8 pulled.
Will the clerk now please read the title to item 11A6?
Item 11A6 is Resolution 2023-118, directing the city manager and presiding judge to evaluate alternative methods of providing legal defense representation for indigent persons in the Aurora Municipal Court.
Motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Coombs.
I move to, or nope, sorry. Never mind. I was going to say oppose, and I cannot move to oppose.
Was a little surprising. Councilmember Zvonek.
Yeah, Mayor, motion to approve item 11A6.
It was moved by Councilmember Zvonek, seconded by?
Bergen.
Seconded by Councilmember Bergen to approve item number 11A6. Discussion?
Mayor.
Councilmember Zvonek, then Councilmember Coombs.
Yeah, so just to be clear on what this is and what it is not. First, what it's not. This is not going to get rid of our public, or the ability for those who would qualify for it to have public defense. The majority of cities throughout Colorado use the Alternative Defense Council or some sort of privatized means of public defense so that they can provide the representation that is required under law. What this resolution does is ask the city manager to go out with an RFP to determine whether or not the cost for the city of Aurora to engage in a contract with the Alternative Defense Council or some other form of public defense would save the taxpayers of Aurora money over what we're currently spending on public defense. If that number were to come back and suggest that we wouldn't, then we wouldn't move forward in any way. But if it does, and we could save, let's say, $1 million annually and provide the same level of service, then I don't think we would be doing our jobs as stewards of taxpayer dollars to not move forward and explore other alternatives. So that's what this RFP would do, is it kickstart that process, and I would urge my colleagues to vote yes on this.
Councilmember Coombs.
Mayor, so to begin, I would just like to ask that Ms. Cadiz and the members of our commission can come forward to also answer questions. And then do we have staff presenters?
I stand corrected. Let's have a brief presentation by staff.
But you guys come down too.
I think Councilmember Zvonek defined what the issue is, unless there's additional comments in terms of the issue before us. If not, then I'll go to the defense attorney.
Mayor Kaufman, members of council, George Kumantakis from the city attorney's office. I defer to council members Zvonek. I don't have anything else to add.
Very well.
Mayor, I have questions.
Please proceed.
Okay, so just to be clear, based on what Councilmember Zvonek said, Mr. Kumantakis, is your understanding that this would be an RFP for someone to evaluate the different alternatives, or is it an RFP to request that people submit proposals to offer council?
That's what I understand from the resolution, from the way it's worded.
Okay, so with respect to that, then, I have a number of follow-up questions. First, it seems to me that an RFP would not be appropriate for that purpose, right? When you send out an RFP requesting people to provide a service, you're saying, we want you to provide that service. So would you be amenable to an RFQ or an RFI, so request for qualifications or information, to get, again, information about what the costs are of alternative methods?
Mayor.
Councilmember Zvonek.
Yeah, I would be, but the qualification part would, so an RFQ would simply be whether or not they could do the work, right? And that's when you're going out for qualifications, you're asking them simply, do you have the ability to do that? The Alternative Defense Council already does this for cities across Colorado. There's lots of private sector firms that provide this service for large cities such as Colorado Springs. So I don't know that that would be necessary. An RFP doesn't guarantee that you're going to get the job. It's saying we want a proposal which would include costs and their entire costs. They would be bidding for the opportunity for our work. That doesn't mean we have to accept it. Because again, if the RFPs were to come back and suggest that the savings would be de minimis, then at that point, I think the conversation would be, is it worth it for us to do it? But again, if it is something in the order of $1 million a year, I would ask, is that worth it? Is it worth it for us to move forward if we could save $1 million a year and provide the same level of public defense for those who qualify for it? And to me, I think the answer to that would be yes. But I think an RFP is more appropriate in this circumstance because it gives us a holistic view of what the cost would be and whether or not they're qualified. Whereas with the RFQ, I don't think would be necessary because anybody responding to this would be in fact qualified.
Okay. Mayor?
Councilmember Coons.
So I guess the concern that I have with this, right, is an RFP is an intention to contract. And that means we're contracting out an entire department. We're saying that we may contract out an entire department of 18 FTEs. Those are people who work for our city with families who have been very loyal to our city. We have the least turnover in this department out of any department in the city. And so my concern is that in doing this, what we end up saying to those folks is, you might want to be looking around for another job. And then we end up incurring the cost of recruiting and training and onboarding a whole new group of folks. So that actually is not a responsible use of our dollars to send that message out to our employees in this whole department, saying, hey, you might not have a job come this time next year. So that's one issue I see with this. The other concern that I have is whether or not this is within the scope of the judicial branch and the city manager, just legally within the city's ordinances. And this is a question for Mr. Kumantakis. Under Colorado Revised Statutes 13-10-114.5, it requires that at minimum, a nonpartisan entity independent of municipal court and municipal officials oversees or evaluates indigent defense counsel. And so we have that, right? That's our public defender commission, of which we have some members present. And then we also have our city ordinances, which establish the commission as well as the public defender's office. So given that structure as well as that state law, is it within the purview of the chief judge and the city manager to conduct this process?
There's nothing specific in the statute or in our ordinance that says that it can't be contracted out. It just says that a public defender needs to be appointed. It doesn't say how that needs to be done.
But for the evaluation component, right? Because this actually is an ordinance ostensibly to evaluate the function of our public defender office. So it's not clear to me that that's not the role of the commission. And we have already spent $245,000 for a review of the entire court, including the public defender's office, which is currently underway. So it's not clear to me that A, we haven't wasted at least a portion of that $245,000 if we're not going to use the information from that study, and B, that we shouldn't defer to the Public Defender Commission to provide that assessment, right? They can gather the information about the other options, right, the OADC or private options, and utilize the information from that $245,000 study, and that would be under their purview as the entity that's set to review the court, or to review the public defender's office. So if we're asking for a review of the office, shouldn't it go to the commission, the independent commission that we have appointed for that purpose?
Mayor. I think you're conflating a couple of things. The review that's being done in the Judicial Department that included the public defender is a workload study, I believe. That's what you're referring to. That's the $245,000. That is not what this is looking at. This is purely a cost. We spend in excess of $2 million a year on the public defender's office. The question is, can we save, and if so, how much? If that is in fact the case, then I would suggest that we move forward with the rest of the due diligence that would be necessary to make a final determination of whether or not we contract out. But unless and until we know how much we would be saving, I don't think it would be necessary. We should start the process of determining whether or not outsourcing the public defender's office is the right answer. To the workload study, if the answer is no, that we wouldn't save a significant amount of taxpayer dollars by contracting or going with the Alternative Defense Council, then the workload study would tell us whether or not that office needs more employees or more support. That isn't necessary, I believe, until we have this final answer of can we in fact save money. And for those of you who are listening to this, we talked about doing this a year ago in our budget meeting. We asked our city manager at the time to conduct this study. The reason I'm bringing it forward in resolution form is because it hadn't been done. And I know that our interim city manager is helping me to move this forward, but I brought it forward at that time because we were talking about how we're going to budget or balance the budget in out years, and I was looking at ways in which maybe there's an option for us to save money by using private contractors. And this one came up because a city like Colorado Springs, the second largest city in the state, does just that. And I know that they don't do all the same types of cases, but their per case cost is significantly lower than ours. And I think that if we can save our taxpayers in excess of $1 million a year and provide the services necessary for those who qualify, why wouldn't we explore that?
Very
Mayor.
well. I'm going to go to our public defender, Elizabeth Caddies, for some brief comments, should you desire to give some.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you, Mayor. And may I address you from here, or should I approach the podium? Does it matter?
Please, sure.
A podium? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I would like an opportunity to address the council just briefly. And I'd like to start just by saying first that to correct a couple things, at least, that have been said. The first is regarding the ordinances themselves. There's a whole body of municipal code ordinances that speak to the establishment of the Aurora Public Defender, the commission, the purpose, And it's just simply not the case, even just by a simple review of those ordinances, that they just say there has to be one. They don't say how. In fact, in the resolution that's before you, one thing that has been omitted from even the ordinances that were referenced is the PD commission and the purpose for them. So for instance, section 50-171 expressly permits the court upon motion or upon their own order to appoint a counsel in place of the municipal public defender. And we usually use that when we're asking for conflict counsel. However, even in that situation, it requires that the Public Defender Commission set the compensation. That is what keeps the defense of the poor people who are charged in your court. That's what keeps the representation independent, which is required by state law. That's throughout all of these ordinances, and that's been left out as the ordinances have been described in the resolution. And something else I'd ask the council to consider is, aside from the fact that your decision will in fact affect an entire department full of full-time employees that work here and are good at what they do, are providing a constitutionally required service to this city. You did pay for an authorized payment for a workload study, which is described in the actual project description in the background as a study that's used to determine the appropriate staffing levels for each identified group. That would include my office, that would include the court, administration, the judicial department, as well as the city attorney. When this information is joined with case filing information, NCSC, National Center for State Courts, can determine the expected annual workloads for each group, and they can determine the appropriate staffing levels. So what you've paid for is in fact the tool to answer the question that is before you in this resolution. This resolution is asking to evaluate whether there is an easier option, a cheaper option, a more cost-effective option, not with any actual data to support that there is one and that you're going to go find it. It's a big risk to take. It's a big ask of, I think, Judicial and the city manager, who, without any disrespect, frankly, would be more difficult for them to even set the terms, the specs, the specifications, the quality of services. How do you manage an RFP for something that you don't do? That's why we have the commission. And this department, council members, has been here for 30 years. The system in place, the Aurora Municipal Court, at some level is based in cooperation with what we do and how we do it. The public defender is responsible for screening the applicants to find out whether they're financially eligible for public defender services. You heard Judge Day talk about how we are going to be going through an entire sea change, I think are the words that he said, in terms of the docket. Well, guess who sits down and talks about how that's going to work? We call it Big Four. Big Four is the chief public defender, the city attorney, the presiding judge, and the court administrator, and we work together. There is a benefit to having us in-house because we can help the flow of the operations. Last but not least, there has been no comparable data provided, and Councilmember Zvonek indicated now twice that OADC is in fact providing this to the majority of jurisdictions, and that's just not the case. OADC got involved with municipal representation because of the statute that you just heard referenced, and part of what they do is contract with municipalities to evaluate whether or not the council that is being contracted is of the quality that measures up to the Constitution. They only actually have contracts to provide representation with 4 places, and we're one of them. We contract with them for our conflict counsel. And then so does Denver, and the other 2 who contract With ADC are North Glen, who has court on 1 day a week. Their total contract amount is 15 grand, and they don't do DVs. And Westminster, who does do DVs, but their total contract amount was $385,000, $285,000 for last year, and they did 305 DVs in 2021. We did almost 1,300. So I'm asking that you consider actual comparable data, which will be provided to you on a silver platter at the end of the workload study that you've already paid for, rather than make a move tonight that potentially conflicts other departments, calls into question the independence of an organization that's been a part of your city for 30 years. That's my ask.
Mayor?
Thank you. I'm sorry, Councilmember Berger.
Yes, and this is to the sponsor of the ordinance. Councilmember Zvonik, when earlier it was mentioned about the salary, but if you're going out for an RFP, again, we still have the opportunity to make decisions based on all the information that we receive after the proposal comes in, is my understanding. But wouldn't we be comparable in that salary as we're contracting, if we were to contract?
Right. And as was mentioned, there's state laws that would regulate to ensure that the public defense is paid an adequate amount. So everything that she said is true in that we are, the IADC contracts with other cities. Colorado Springs does it completely privatized. If we go this route and it is determined that we could save resources, we would dig further into whether or not it's the right decision for Aurora. But we seem to be getting resistance on even asking the question of whether or not it would save us money, and I'm not quite sure why.
And follow up, please.
Okay, Councilmember Bergen.
So the proposal, we would be able to see comparable data as well, not just in the cost, but just services rendered.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Oh, are there any questions for the Chief Public Defender? Seeing none,
Mayor.
thank you.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you. So I believe we've already kind of tread a lot of this ground last year. And I remember one of the asks that we made was, well, what does the ADC charge versus our public defenders on an hourly basis? Could you remind the council of what that answer was?
I can. ADC currently requires an hourly rate of $95 per hour. They'll be moving to $100 per hour as of next year, and then there was actually legislation passed this year that will require there to be an ongoing escalation of that hourly rate until it's reached 75% of the federal indigence guideline. And they also, and this is significant, one, that's set based on a Colorado Supreme Court directive. But two, their case caps, their maximum amounts. For instance, for a trial, I think, if I'm not mistaken, right now, at the $95 rate per hour, I believe their case cap on a misdemeanor is a little bit over $4,500 per case, whereas you're obviously paying us not per case, just a salary, regardless of whether we go to trial or not. And also, in terms of comparables, I think it's important to consider too that there's just 5 other places that do domestic violence. I know that's important to the council. That was important, I think, when the Public Defender's Office was established. I think actually we started taking on more DVs when we established the Public Defender and for them to be in-house. But there really is not another comparable jurisdiction.
Mayor.
Councilmember Connell.
Thank you. So you answered half the question with regards to the Alternative Defense Council. Thank you. That's good. So our hourly rates, if I recall, it was around $45 an hour once you factor in caseload, something like that. Is that correct still?
That's correct. I think it comes in at like 52 if you include the chief public defender, so myself. I think it comes in at 52 the last I checked, but I can certainly get that hourly rate, but it's certainly quite a bit cheaper.
Mayor.
Councilmember McConnell.
So another follow-up, I guess, because some of the, I guess we don't really have that many comparables, just due to, I guess, how sophisticated our court is. We're handling domestic violence. We have a lot of mandatory minimums now that require public defense. So I guess if the caseload is higher, and we, for whatever reason, evaluate contracting out, they have to pay these fees that you've already mentioned, right, the $95 plus rates. So from my perspective, the math is kind of already done for us then, right? Higher caseload, higher hourly rate, plus we already have a workload study that we have not yet seen the result from. So I feel like this is kind of like an answer in search of a problem. Like, I don't understand the rationale for doing this at this point. We already have the information that we need. It's pretty basic math. Am I missing something here?
I don't think so. I also think, again, it's a little nuanced, but if you consider too the other things, the other benefits that would come in-house that you'd have to pay for. You have to pay travel time, for instance. Most private attorneys that operate right now in Aurora Municipal Court don't also have offices and go to court in other jurisdictions in Aurora. And so, the Chief Justice Directive requires that you pay travel time at the same rate. You have to pay mileage. You have to pay for subpoenas. You have to pay still for an investigator, for an interpreter, for expert consultation, for an immigration advisement, for instance. The transcripts would be the same. And so I think, we have an entire program right now where we're working with a community partner that you all heard about. And I don't think there was any dispute, at least at the budget workshop, that there was a need to fund that position. And so these are the valuable things that you have already. And if it's just exploratory, I guess my answer to you is that it is easy math right now. We don't have any reason not to believe that we're doing it the most cost-effective way if we're concerned about the quality.
So, Councilmember Zvonek, your proposal is not definitive in terms of making a decision. The information comes back to council, and council can weigh all considerations to include qualitative information. And so, I would. That we're going to have this debate later on. The only question tonight is, should we in fact authorize with the RFP to start the process to do a study? It is, and then we can debate the merits of the study or the lack of.
Mayor.
Further discussion. Mayor Pro Tem Gardner.
Yeah, I want to echo what the mayor said. Honestly, I think most of this conversation tonight is way beyond the scope of what we're being asked tonight. There's a lot of value, obviously, in having a public defender. I'm a huge proponent of the Constitution, and we need to have a strong public defender for several different reasons. And if you're a lock-em-up type, you want to have a strong public defender because you don't want cases to be thrown out for poor representation. I mean, everybody has a vested interest in having a strong public defender. That all being said, we are being asked one question tonight. We are being asked, should we do an evaluation to see what other options exist? And the conversation has turned into, the pros and cons of our current department and the employees that we have and all these other things. And that's a conversation that we might have maybe possibly in the future, depending on what this study looks like. But honestly, I don't think a lot of these questions should even be allowed to be asked tonight. My understanding is the questions should be germane to the question in front of us. And the question in front of us solely is, should we move forward with a study? And the sponsor has said several times, if it doesn't pencil out, then we're not going to move forward. And I'll be the first to say, it isn't going to solely come down to dollars and cents for me. There's a lot more to it than that. I want to make sure that the folks that use the public defender are getting strong representation, because I think that's really important. So it's not going to just come down to dollars and cents. But coming back to what's in front of us, we are purely being asked, should we move forward with a study? So I would implore my colleagues to let's move on to the rest of our business tonight, and let's vote on what the question is in front of us.
Mayor.
Further discussion.
Mayor, I have just an RFP-specific question.
Councilmember Coombs.
Do we have any metrics for this RFP? Because it didn't go to policy committee and it didn't go to study session, and I don't see any metrics in the backup. So do we have any kind of outline, or are we just saying chief judge, whose purview the public defender isn't even, and city manager, whose purview the public defender isn't even, go do some kind of RFP? Can we at least get some metrics? Like, can we go back to a study session and get some metrics before we vote on this?
So the mayor, if I could.
Councilmember Zavonic.
So in the resolution, in section 2, it asks, it requires that the city manager and the presiding judge, once they go out with the RFP, the focus of the RFP initially is cost. That's the metrics, cost. What would it cost for us to go and use, whether it's the Alternative Defense Council or other private services, to handle our caseload and all of the nuances that are around that? What would that cost? And then to present it back, and here it says, to the Public Safety Committee, so that we can have a conversation there about, as I said several times throughout the conversation over the past year, if it comes back and it shows $100,000 a year savings, that's probably, to Mayor Pro Tem Gardner's point, that's probably not big enough savings, given all of the other factors for us to really dig deeper into it. But again, if it is $1 million or more a year, or whatever the number is, if it's a big enough number for us to have a deeper conversation about all of the things that we were talking about tonight that aren't germane to what I'm asking for, which is an RFP that will help us to determine whether or not contracting out with the Alternative Defense Council or private contractors would save the taxpayers of Aurora taxpayer funds to provide the same level of services that they're already getting.
Mayor.
Councilmember Jurenski.
I'd like to call for the question, please.
It's been a motion to call for the question by Councilmember Jurenski, and second.
Second, Zavonic.
Second by Councilmember Zavonic. Call for the question. Call for the question.
I did?
Somebody. And they already said yes.
Mayor Kaufman.
Call for the question.
Mayor Kaufman.
Mayor votes yes.
The motion passes with 8 yes votes, 3 no votes from Councilmember Medina, Marcano, and Murillo to end debate and vote on the main motion.
The question before us is the adoption of item number 11A6.
No, vote on
Right, we're voting on the issue now. Right, we just did that. Now we're voting on 11A6. Yes. Right, okay. Okay. Call for the question on 11A6.
The motion passes with 6 yes votes and 4 no votes. No votes from Councilmember Medina, Marcano, Coombs, and Murillo to approve Resolution 2023-118.
Will the clerk now please read the title to 11A8?
11A8 is Resolution 2023-120, opposing the Colorado statewide ballot measure Proposition 2, retain nicotine tax revenue in excess of Blue Book estimate.
Brief presentation by staff. What's that? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. For the record, my name is Liz Rogers, Intergovernmental Relations Manager in the City Manager's Office. Proposition II is titled Proposition EE, Funding Retention Rate Reduction. The question referred to the voters will be, without raising taxes, may the state retain and spend revenues from taxes on cigarettes, tobacco, and other nicotine products and maintain tax rate on cigarettes, tobacco, and other nicotine products and use these revenues to invest $23,650,000 to enhance the voluntary Colorado preschool program and make it widely available for free instead of reducing these tax rates and refunding revenues to cigarette wholesalers, tobacco product distributors, nicotine product distributors, and other taxpayers for exceeding an estimate included in the ballot information booklet for Proposition EE. Staff did not have a position recommendation and will take direction from the council on this issue. The FSIR committee unanimously voted to oppose ballot measure II, and the measure to oppose is voted on by the majority at study session on October 2nd. Staff is available to answer any questions on the ballot measure.
Great. Any questions of staff?
Mayor.
Councilmember Coombs.
So I just want to clarify, this is saying, this is a measure to tell the state that they can retain the taxes that the voters already said they could collect for the purpose of providing preschool. a statewide preschool program, correct?
That is correct. A yes vote on Proposition II allows the state to keep and spend $23.65 million in tax revenue that has already been collected from the sale of cigarettes, tobacco products, and nicotine products, including that interest. And then it will also maintain the current tax rates on those products.
Thank you.
Okay, motion is in order. Are there any other questions of staff?
Mayor.
I'm sorry.
Mayor.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you. And Liz, another follow-up for you. I guess if a no vote would basically it seems like wholesalers and retailers in the tobacco industry retain?
So a no vote on Proposition II will mean that the $23.65 million will be refunded to wholesalers and distributors, as well as the tax rates on cigarette, tobacco products, and nicotine products will be reduced.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions of staff? Seeing none, motion is in order.
Mayor, motion to approve 11A8.
Second.
It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Gardner, seconded by
Zavonic.
Councilmember Zavonic to approve item number 11A8. Discussion.
Mayor.
Councilmember Coombs.
So it's perverse that the people of our state said, yes, collect these taxes on nicotine and tobacco products to fund preschool programs, and now the next year we have to go back and say, yes, again, please do that and use those revenues that we already told you to collect. This is one of the ways in which Tabor is broken, and it's extremely disappointing that this council would choose to force the voters to go back and express that yet again when they already said yes.
Further discussion?
Mayor.
I'm sorry.
Mayor.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, sir. So as y'all heard, this would basically allow us to help fund the universal pre-K program that our voters overwhelmingly supported in the past. I'm not sure why council seems to want to put the tobacco industry above preschoolers, but please, to our residents, support II. Let's put preschoolers above tobacco. Thank you.
Further discussion?
Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I can't resist. We all know that a tax on businesses is actually a tax on consumers. Any tax that goes to a business is passed along to consumers. It's a straw man to say that this is putting the tobacco industry above preschoolers. Our state government collects more than enough taxes to pay for the needs of the residents of our state. It's just a matter of the priorities on which they spend our money. If they really wanted to spend our money on kindergarten or pre-kindergarten and other things, they have more than enough money to spend that on. They prioritize other things that are less important.
Further discussion? Seeing none, call for the question on the adoption of item number 11A8.
The motion passes with 6 yes votes, 4 no votes from Councilmember Medina, Marcano, Coombs, and Murillo to approve Resolution 2023-120.
Clerk, now please read the title of item number 12A.
Item 12A is a public hearing without related ordinance to consider an appeal by an abutting property owner of the administrative decision approval of the Rocking Horse Pool and Activity Center site plan amendment.
A brief presentation by staff.
Mayor, we have to open the hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh. Public hearing is now open. Brief presentation by staff.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tonight for your review is an appeal by an abutting property owner of the administrative decision for the approval of the Rocking Horse Pool and Activity Center site plan amendment. The planning director reviewed and approved the applicant's request for the administrative approval of the Rocking Horse Pool and Activity Center site plan amendment on August 24th, 2023. The administrative decision, staff report, decision results letter, and notice to City Council are attached as exhibits for reference. The appeal was called up to City Council by appellant Tom Hawes, an abutting property owner. The appellant states that the planning director's decision failed to demonstrate that the site plan amendment was in compliance with the permitted use table. That is the section of code 146-3.2, because the applicant misrepresented the use of the proposed building and the application does not meet the permitted land use under zone R1. The site is located at 23392 East Glydian Drive and is currently a pool and neighborhood park. As defined, a clubhouse is a neighborhood or community-scaled planning area that integrates into adjacent residential zone districts and provides community benefit. The clubhouse meets the intent of the Rocking Horse Master Plan and is a permitted land use in Zone R1, Sub-Area C. The 5-acre park has an existing pool, play structure, play fields, and fire pit. The parking lot will remain the same size, with only further landscaping and berming added to create a visual buffer from the center to the neighborhood. The activity center will be placed north and west of the existing playfields and parking lot. The existing beach volleyball court will be relocated to the north end of the turf playfield. All other existing amenities will remain the same. The site is primarily surrounded by existing single-family residential homes, with the exception of an open space corridor that extends northwest of the site. The site plan has no adjustments and meets all applicable UDO standards. Staff recommended approval based on the site plan amendment criteria from the UDO. The site plan amendment requests no adjustments and meets all code requirements. The planning director reviewed and approved the applicant's request for the administrative approval of the Rocking Horse Pool and Activity Center on August 24, 2023, based on the site plan amendment criteria of the UDO and staff recommendation. The site plan was appealed by the abutting property owner on September 5, 2023, in accordance with Section 146-5.3.13a, Appeals to City Council. The appellant states that the planning director's decision failed to demonstrate that the site plan amendment was in compliance with the permitted use table found in Section 146-3.2. And with that, does City Council wish to uphold the decision made by the planning director to approve the Rocking Horse Activity Site Plan Amendment? And with that, we have the applicant with a presentation and to follow the appellant.
Applicants, you have 15 minutes of total time for a presentation.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, city staff, and my friends and neighbors and inspiration. My name is Aaron Curtis, and I'm presenting tonight on behalf of the applicant. And I hope that after you hear from us tonight, hopefully it will only take 10 minutes, not 15, that you'll approve the plan that we've worked for 6 years on. So a little bit about the history of this project. It's intertwined with my history. I've lived in this community when it was called Rocking Horse for about 12 years. We were one of the first residents here. And for half of that time, I was privileged to represent our neighbors on our Metro District Board. And my term ended in May. But my former colleagues on the board asked me to present tonight. The current board is here tonight, along with the chair of our building committee, Rick Coldsnow, and Jen Grant, who is our architect. And we intend to be brief tonight. The project before you is a 4,500 square foot community services center. It's a true multi-purpose building that was long planned for our community, but it was never built. It has flexible space for large and small community gatherings, restrooms, a kitchenette, small amount of storage for our recreational and maintenance equipment, a community garden, as well as a small workspace. So when your predecessors on the council fought really hard to annex the property that became Rocking Horse 20 plus years ago, the rationale was that this was going to be a model for development in the E470 corridor. And it's a great community. If you haven't been there, we invite you to come out. It's a great place to live. It's a great place to visit. But the decades between approval and now, a succession of developers slowly whittled away the plan and wriggled out of their obligations, including to build a community center just like this on this site. So we're now one of the only communities in Southeast Aurora that doesn't have a place for everybody in the community to gather inside. So more than 6 years ago, a group of residents got together, started working together to make this project a reality. So every single person that brought this project to this point with the exception of Jen, our architect, is a volunteer who lives in inspiration. So the need for the project is apparent if you've ever been to our community. We're highly active and engaged. We don't always agree, but we do come together as a community regularly. We have outdoor spaces where we do Santa visits, pumpkin carving, chili cook-offs, which was just last weekend, egg hunts, concerts, yoga, and everything in between, unless there's weather. So let me give you an example. So our Holly Jolly event is our Christmas event where we raise money for local charities. And if it snows, Santa doesn't come to our event. So 3 of our 4 big summer events were canceled this summer because of weather. At least 2 of them could have been salvaged if we had a building like this to hold events. So we asked people what they wanted a community center to have, right? So, you know, the list that you can see here is not definitive. We had 400 or so responses, but it's mommy and me classes, lock-in nights, painting sessions, fitness classes, and everything in between. So when we finish this building and it actually begins to be used, I believe that it will be enjoyed by residents for generations to come. Obviously, there is not universal agreement, and including on the facts. But here are some of the facts. It starts with the fact that the project, as you heard, meets all the city requirements. If you've ever been through the Amanda process, this is my 3rd or 4th go-around. It is not for the faint of heart. It is a rough process. So this is a minor site plan amendment. We're not asking for a master plan amendment. We're not asking for a zone change or a conditional use. Throughout the process, city staff reviewed all the elements before you tonight, and that process, as I said, is very thorough. But it's designed to complement all the things that we already have in our community, right? This is sort of the missing piece. So this is how it all comes together, and I'm going to use this laser pointer if nobody minds. I bought it for tonight, so you would crush me if I didn't get to use it. But it starts with a large community room here, and that faces our, I'll do it over here too so people can see, faces our event lawn. We've got a smaller room for our clubs to meet. We've got a kitchenette, bathrooms, small storage for our pool. One of the things that the developers wriggled out of over time was any place for us to put our pool furniture. So every year we rent a truck, we pack up the furniture, we take it down to a storage unit, store it for the winter, and then in the spring we go back and get it unloaded at the pool. So this little area here is to store our pool equipment and pool furniture, and then we've got a 2-bay garage for our district vehicles. So it's a highly flexible space that would not be out of place in any park in the city of Aurora. And it's meant to bring people together. So let me give you some site context. This is the project right here, right? So when you want to bring people together, you want to do it in the middle of the community. So this is the high ground between the 2 neighborhoods in our community, and it goes right along Inspiration Lane with a very small exception of a pod here. This is 55 plus. This is all ages. The yellow circles represent all the parks in our community, and all of the trails lead back to this site. It's already highly developed, and it's less than a mile from every single home in our community. And this is the center of our community. So this is the site here, and this is our big neighborhood park, Pathfinder Park. It's the biggest park in our community. We've got our playing fields, our tennis courts, our playground, sport courts. These trails go all over to our skate features, to our mountain bike trails. But this is the heart of our community, and this is the remnant of the original plans that has survived. This was always meant to be a highly developed, highly active central location in the community, and the community center was always designed to be the element next to the pool. So here's the closer look at the site itself. We'll have a site plan, but it's not as easy to read. The building, as you can see, connects right to our pool area. This is our tot lot. This is our grill area. This is the pool mechanical building. This is our event lawn. And the community room, the big community room that you saw, connects right here on the event lawn with a deck. So the big windows and doors open up onto the event lawn. So you can see how the site is situated. It's designed as an L, right, to minimize view impact for the residents here. And then you've got landscape buffer around the edges. This is a berm too. The thing to remember about this is that this is just one of 2 parcels in our entire community that isn't given pros credit, right? And that was intentional. This site has always been designed and intended by successive versions of the master plan for a site or a facility just like this. All right, so even though this is the place where it was supposed to be, the board made every effort to look at other alternative locations. So this is our site here, and these are the 5 other areas that we looked at seriously as alternative locations. None of these were viable. There were cost constraints. There were the fact that we would have to change the master plan. We would have to convert open space to active use. And you may hear tonight some people say, well, this site faces some of the same constraints as other sites. And that's just not true. So some people are conflating us needing to connect to the sewer with building 400 feet of city main line down the middle of the street, which would be required in some of these other sites. So as I understand the argument from the appellant is that A, it doesn't meet the requirements. I think it does. The project should speak for itself. But that also that the board, the applicant, has not been forthcoming about what the building's actually for. You saw it. You saw it with your own eyes. You saw the building, you saw the floor plan, you saw how it lays out. That's a community center. This has been an open and engaged process. So in addition to the Amanda process, right, which is pretty rigorous, we had our own board process, right? We had 20 public meetings between last year and this year, just on this topic. We sent 10 e-blasts to all 1,900 subscribers in our community. We've got a page on our website that has all the information, every version of the plan, agendas, minutes, everything. And to give you an idea of how transparent we've been, our pre-app meeting, which if any of you have ever done, is a private meeting with city staff before you begin the process, right? Our first pre-app meeting was a public meeting. We noticed it, we let people dial into it, and city staff was a little flummoxed when we did that, and they had to check to make sure that was okay. But our pre-app meeting was a public meeting. And so we've maintained that level of openness all throughout the process. And we listened, right? So the changes that you see, the project that we started with at the beginning of last year is not the project that's in front of you now. We tripled the city setback requirement. So we're 82 feet from the nearest fence, or 116 feet from the nearest building. Those of you familiar with the Douglas County IGA requires a 100-foot setback. It's pretty strict. We've exceeded that. We moved the building, to position it so that it doesn't block the view of the mountains significantly. We lowered its height, so it's 18 feet high. It's lower or smaller than some of the adjacent buildings. There's 10 feet of grade separation. And we reduced the footprint 35%. So let me show you what that looks like. So these are different panoramic views from adjacent homes. This is the front of the building. This is the side. As you can see, we prioritized the mountain view here. We didn't prioritize a view of the parking lot. We prioritized the view of the mountain, which is largely unimpeded. So as you saw from the floor plan, this is a flexible building. I want to clarify some things that you may hear tonight. This is not a maintenance building. It's not a maintenance facility. It's not a shop. It's not a Midas muffler. It's a place for us to store, the garage, those 2 vehicles that you see right there. It's a small gator and a small lawn tractor. That's the extent of our district fleet. And we just want to get them out of those shipping containers that we have where we park them now. The site is not open space. It's a highly developed neighborhood activity center. It doesn't impair future expansion of our pool, which is a big hot topic in our community. So the site plan actually leaves the area to the west of the pool completely open and unobstructed. It was a request from the city that it be part of our phasing plan. So any future expansion of the pool is not impeded. And if the master plan, quite frankly, had been followed, the project would have been finished before the neighboring homes were ever built. So to sum up, this is allowed in R1, it's permitted by the UDO, complies with the E470 overlay, it's actually specified in our master plan, and is designated for this specific location. It's good public policy. This is a true community center that completes the original vision for our community and will serve residents for decades to come. We ask respectfully that you reject the appeal before you tonight and allow 6 years of community effort to continue moving forward to bring this project to life. I appreciate your time, and our team is happy to answer any questions, or you can wait till you hear from others and ask us then.
There'll be questions later. Thank you very much for the presentation. Now we'll have a 15-minute presentation by the appellant. Is the appellant here?
He's,
Mayor, City Council, City of Aurora, APD, thanks for showing up tonight. I'd like to apologize that we're here in this situation for you to listen to our conflict that we have in our neighborhood and in our community. And as you know, there are many other important things and items the City of Aurora should be addressing. I feel like two children that got in a fight in a playground and we have to hash it out in front of the principal. Anyway, my name is Steve Prohaska. My wife, Melanie, and I are Aurora natives, born and raised in North Aurora, Adams County. Married, moved to Arapahoe County, raised 3 wonderful children that are now active adult contributors to our Aurora society. We then moved to our final home in South Aurora, Douglas County. We purchased this home to slow down and enjoy a very quiet and beautiful community, Rocking Horse. And as Aaron said, it is gorgeous. If you haven't been out there, take a spin around it. It's a place that you want to be. We built our home 5 years ago and waited for the perfect lot that we paid extra for so that we could back up to open space, a park, and a pool. It was never stated that there was going to be any kind of service center built in our backyard. This project was slated for a different location and a different use, all of which didn't bother my wife and I, but now has moved in our park, pool area, and our open space. So why are we here? We're here because Inspiration Metropolitan District, or IMD, has been less than supportive of their community and have proven over these last, actually over 5 years, they're more interested in their own agenda. We appealed specifically addressing Article 146-5.3, which states the planning director determines that the application raises potential controversy, why we're here, or potential unanticipated impacts of the surrounding areas, which includes abutting homes. That's why we're here. We're here to stop the project and figure out a better way to. So this is the summary of appeal. We're here because the board behind me has been misleading this. They've misled you tonight. They've told you that this is a community center. That's not what this is. Back in 2014, when the filing was drawn up, there was no community center put in the original filing. In 2017, they changed that to community center. Okay, community center, I don't know if any of you have been around to other community centers, but they don't have 2 garage door bays that face the parking lot and a full-time employee that works out of the building. There's been some unethical stuff that has gone on as well. In the latest meeting minutes, there's been different stuff submitted to the city that actually were talked about. One member even said, how can we circumvent other city committees to end the work and this process? Right there in writing. Project was grossly misrepresented in cost. It's changed over and over again. It's changed as recently as 2 to 3 weeks ago and has gone up, as they've told us all along that it would not go up based on some of these changes that were made. Dues are going to go up because now sewer lines do have to be adjusted. Okay, the sewer lines in Site A that they said we were going to attach to existing sewer lines, is not the case. They have to extend it out to Rocking Horse. This is going to include more costs. This project also was proposed 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, the budget was made at $1.51 million. Times have changed, things have gone up. They have not addressed the issue of raising costs and what it's going to mean to us as residents. Most of the residents in this community want to talk about a bigger pool and would rather spend the money on a bigger pool. The current pool that we have is a baby pool at best. It's 3 feet deep, and more than half of it is less than 2. Great for our children in the community, but there are adults as well that like to get wet in the summertime. So most of the community would rather have a pool than this community center. And again, it originally was not built that way. This is how they've been misleading us. This is not a, they've changed the name over and over again. And even in the 2017 change, it was community center. It's since changed to community services center. They're going to be servicing the community out of this building. His 2 pieces of equipment that he's there are going to be in and out of those 2 garages every single day because it moves around this entire neighborhood. We're stuck with that noise. We're stuck with him turning it on, driving up every day. This is a full-time employee, so this becomes a building of business, not a community center. Over half of that building is a garage. He is going to be there every single day, and he's going to be there from 9 to 5. This is a district employee. Okay? This is a full-time storage facility, again for district equipment. So all of the equipment that is in this neighborhood will be stored in this facility. So this, again, takes up more space than using it for community use. So far, we've heard that the kitchenette they said there was a kitchen in there. What we've heard is there's going to be a microwave. The building itself, or the room to meet, is going to be set up with tables and chairs that can be folded and moved away. This doesn't sound like a community center that's going to be able to hold Christmas parties, football games, or anything else of that effect. This is their pre-application, directly from them, not from me, but from them. So they are constructing a single-story commercial building, okay? And then below, this is what they want to do. Provide a presentation training room capable of accommodating 100 people. Non-fixed seating, which I just mentioned, they can move it out of the way. Provide offices for Public Alliance and the Metropolitan District's Management and Maintenance Company to house out of. Provide a large maintenance garage for storage and maintenance of Public Alliance tools and resources. Does this sound like a community building and the use for us as the community residents? Again, from the proposed vision, June 9th, 2022. I'm not going to read this to you because there's lots of words up there, but I wanted to highlight one sentence they put in there that actually is towards us residents in the community. Meetings could be potentially also used for resident gatherings, so the structure and procedures for resident use would need to be formalized. That tells me they don't even know what they're going to use it for. Original location. What Aaron forgot to tell you is the original location was the number C there, the Toll Brothers site. It was a site that is considered open space at this point, but yet it was put up as a place that they started, they did all the work, and because the city of Aurora decided they needed to change the sewer lines, it became too costly. If we look up there, though, that cost is $2.077 million. We are now at $2.1 million that they've proposed that this new building is going to cost us in Site A, which is at the pool site. So that hasn't been addressed, that our dues will go up, and we're still at the pool site that everybody's opposed to. This is the site that he was also talking about. This was in your application. He shows you where the sewer line and the manholes will go. This building is behind a parking lot. They said that they would have to increase parking. Well, what they didn't talk about was there were two buildings that were there, the Toll Brothers buildings, that once they moved, that was flat ground that could have been turned into parking lots, and also had another escape route for the two entry and exit for the parking lots themselves. So again, very misleading. This particular site does nothing to any abutting residents. It's completely out of view from anybody's view of the mountains or any other thing. We were used to buildings in this spot, and now they've moved it to the pool, which everybody's going to see, and everybody doesn't want, except for another side of the community that wants to have their meetings. After that, when the public raised concerns about this, a new Q&A document came out to change the narrative again, that now this is a community services building. Again, let's look at the verbiage that they use, that now they've took, number one, the flexible space for the community to use, but we haven't changed what's still going to be used out of this building. It's maintenance, storage, district equipment, 2 cargo containers that they're using there today to do. I know for a fact that cargo containers maybe cost $8,000. The residents of the community are used to it. Let's just buy them, store equipment in there, leave them right where they're at, and change this building to what it's supposed to be used for. All these committees that are up there that are set up, they are the ones that have those meetings that Aaron just talked about, and that's why they want to have this space. They want to sit and have their meetings in this space. So we took it upon ourselves after multiple different board meetings where residents got on and voiced much concern of this building. We took it upon ourselves to post a survey on Facebook. In the survey, we asked, do you approve the service of this service center by the pool? You can see that 80% of the people that did respond said no. The board shot this down, that this was not a way to conduct a survey. Nothing on Facebook counts. So they conducted their own survey, and they constructed it with their own verbiage so that they could get their narrative across. First question, I support separating the facility into a clubhouse at the pool and a garage on the other location. Would you support raising mill levies or assessments to achieve it? Of course, everybody says no. No one wants their mill levies to go up. But that's a double-ended question there. You can't answer that question appropriately, the way that it's worded. You look at the next one. Do you support raising mill levies for the assessment of the project? They said no. Basically saying, we're not going back to relook at another facility or place for this facility. So we went again and did another survey on our own. This is as of recently, as of this week. We posted it on Facebook. We posted it within the community, and people were voting to talk about what they really want our money to be spent for. People were not aware of this additional cost that the building now has. 72% do not even know that their mill levies might increase in 2025. 135 people, 97% said they don't want increased dues. Here we are. Would you approve this funding to go to something else besides this building, like a pool? That's overwhelming. 90% would rather have a bigger pool than this particular building at this time. So, in conclusion, we ask that the city reject this plan. This is a very significant impact to our community. It's highly inflated. It's been put in front of us the wrong way. We don't believe that we've been heard as a community from all of the different types of people that have voiced their concerns, multiple different concerns, and I will tell you that there's some residents that are going to speak tonight that will agree with some of the things that I'm saying, but have other things to say as well that I couldn't cover. We ask that you guys say no to this, and we ask the board to reconsider another site. We ask the board to really sit with us and talk about what we can do and put this building in the front of us as a true community center. Take the maintenance out of it, store the equipment somewhere else, and let your full-time employee work out of a different building. But if we, as a community center or a clubhouse that they say we so well need, everybody does, let's look at that, and let's go back to the drawing board. Although it takes 7 years, and I apologize, Aaron, it's taken you so long to get here, a lot of work involved, but reality is we don't want it the way that it is. We're asking that you say no at this point so that we can go back and work with the board of directors in our community to do this right. Thank you. Any questions for me?
There'll be time for questions in just a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody from the public who wishes to be heard?
Yes, the first person is Ryan Fields.
And just let everybody know you're limited to 3 minutes each.
Perfect. All right, this is the right time this time. So thank you guys all for hearing us all out on this. My name's Ryan Fields. I actually live next door to Steve, who you just heard from. My biggest thing from this is I think just the misleading information that we've been given. I was under the assumption that this building was going to be used for the community as a whole and be able to have, different things for my kids to do or inside events or whatever. But come to find out after you've seen those drawings, the intent's quite different this way. So aside from being a little bit upset from the misleading side of it, my problem is the location, because it's right directly in our backyard. And while they can sit here and tell you it's not going to impede our views, it most certainly will. And when I bought my house 5 years ago, me and my wife, and at that time my 2 small children, bought that house specifically because of the location and that lot being backing up to open space, and paid a premium to do so. When we bought the lot, we were told nothing was ever going to be placed there. Lo and behold, 4 years go by and we start getting these email blasts that they want to put this service center right behind our house. Again, for me, sure, if we need a service center, great, but I don't understand why, with the overwhelming opposition to the location, they are so adamant about putting it where they want to put it. And that's for me, that's my biggest issue, is why can't we evaluate other locations that doesn't directly impact people such as myself and my abutting neighbors? The other thing, I've got multiple friends in the real estate business, I'm sure as everybody knows a realtor. I've been told historically, when you pull numbers, that something this close to a residence for the purpose it's going to be used for will directly impact my property value should I go to sell. Of course, that's a serious concern that I have, is that I don't wish for my property value to go down. I'd like it to go up, hence again why we bought a house next to open space. So my big opposition to this is, again, the location. The survey that you guys were presented with, again, was shot down by the board, which I was actually surprised about, because we had a meeting about this with them, and we were basically told that that survey doesn't matter, that it's not real data, it doesn't count. So they came up with their own survey with their 2 questions that, as you guys read in Steve's presentation, was completely bogus. So a couple months ago, we had a community event, and I had asked one of the board members, hey, show me a survey that says that the majority of our community is in favor of this location. And they were telling me that they can't do that, or they're working on it, and I haven't seen anything come through on my end. But I'm like, just show me that. If I'm wrong and more people in the community do want this building and they want it here, I rest my case. That's it. I have nothing else to do. I'm obviously outnumbered, but I've yet to see that. So that's my opposition. Thank you.
Chalea Fields. Rick Forsman.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. I promise I'm going to be very brief. My name is Rick Forsman. I live on East Glidden Drive in Inspiration. Thank you for your time in reviewing the application and the appeal. Your packet contained a great deal of data and detail and drawings. I'm sure that you have heard from past applicants that the city's Planning and Development Department is extremely meticulous in going through all of the proposals that it evaluates. And it does not proceed until its staff is confident all factors have been assessed, all process matters have been satisfied, and all codes and ordinances have been met. You've read and heard the findings for this project. The modest building design has been modified numerous times to meet code and to incorporate input from district residents. That's why you've seen reciting, changes in the size and the configuration. The facility will enhance community amenities for the greater good, and significant measures have been taken to minimize impact on nearby homes. The question before you is whether to uphold the planning director's administrative approval. And I hope you will agree the master plan requirements, the UDO criteria, and zoning definitions are clearly met. Thank you.
Brandon Waring.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council. My name's Brandon, and I'm a resident of Inspiration, also known as Rocking Horse. I've been a resident there for about 5 years, and I would like to echo what Ryan said. It's not that I think a vast majority doesn't want any building, any sort. It's the fact that we feel that the board is acting in their interests and not trying to act as a representative of the people of the community. They are correct. They have had many, many meetings with the community. I just don't feel that they've heard anything that the community has said. They've not tried to compromise with us. We've offered numerous other potential locations other than the site that they have suggested, but they seem stuck on that one site and not willing to compromise on that whatsoever. So that's my main point on this, is I feel like they're not representing us as a community. I would be for a certain building, not as much as I'd be for an expansion of our 2-swim lane pool. But I just feel like they're not representing the community properly. And yeah, that's really all I would like to ask, is please consider voting no on this so that we could actually have a conversation with the board and come to an agreement on a suitable location that doesn't impact our neighbors' views, that doesn't take away their open space, doesn't take away the things that they were told when they bought that lot, that's going to be backing to open space. I, again, do not back to this open space. My home is not one of the ones that would be affected, but I just feel like this is wrong of the community to do. Thank you for your time.
Rachel Lynch. Okay, Holly Svets.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. I'm Holly Svets. I live on East Bailey Circle, and I've been there about 7 years. I'm really sorry that these residents believed any builder salesman who told them they backed up to open space, but you've seen in the drawings and documents that it's not open space. It is planned as a neighborhood activity center. I don't see that the building is benefiting only the district, whatever the district is. In my mind, the district is everybody. With the intent to allow birthday parties and things that the weather ruin, like yoga classes going inside, I think that that's a definition of being a benefit to the residents. The budget does include $2 million. We issued subordinate bonds and refinanced our bonds in late 2021. There's $2 million currently in the Operations and Capital Project Fund available for this building. So it doesn't necessarily mean that things will go up. We have kept our quarterly assessments flat for 5 years, and we actually reduced property taxes for almost $1,000 per resident last year. Inflation is going to catch up with us. It's not going to stay flat, but it's not going to because of the building. We saved the money for the building. That's all I have. Thank you.
Scott Woods. Kimberly Kelcher.
Good evening. I just wanted to speak for a minute. I do live in the area of the pool. I actually live across the street. We bought our house there last year. I did not know anything about the community center, but I think that the way that the residents have been kept up to date on the improvements and changes and what they call improvements has really been deceiving to the people in the community. I'm very involved in paying attention to, community meetings and stuff. If everything they said that community center was going to provide was going to actually happen, I probably would not be in this position right now. But to say that we can put 100 people in that community center when we have thousands and thousands of people. We have several hundred people who just come to our concert series in the summer. The things that they are promising for the building are not what it looks like is going to happen, and I think that's where the problem is coming for me. It's a large building that serves very few people, and I think that, that that that's something that people need to pay attention to is we have this, this big building, and I think that the way that it gets used has to benefit the most people in the community, and I don't see that. And that's one of our problems. And sorry, I've never spoken anything like this before. I'm a teacher, right? I should be able to speak in front of people, but this is a little nerve-wracking. And the cost increase is definitely something that we're concerned about. We are in Douglas County, although we're in Aurora, we're in Douglas County, and our taxes just went up enormously this year. Douglas County was the highest tax raise. And, we already have those types of things, and we know that there's going to be an overage. When you build something, it's never going to be that much. It's always going to be more, and we know that's going to fall back on us. And we would like it to be more representative of all of us. Like, why can't we do the survey? Why can't we come together? Why can't we talk about it? When you start something 6 years ago, and I respect that for sure, and I know it takes a long time, but when you start something 6 years ago, there have to be changes. You have to be open to new residents. That there's more houses that are there that weren't there before. And I know it was part of the original plan, but it has to service everybody. And I think that's my biggest concern, is that we need to be more aware of each other. I don't want to fight about this. I feel like that's what happens on social media and stuff, and people are arguing and they're mad at each other. But I think that we could figure this out a lot better if we could come together and everybody would hear each other better. I definitely would prefer not to go ahead with the building of the structure at this time, and work on things that might benefit everybody in a better way. Thank you.
Okay, Mindy Rofin.
Hi, my name is Mindy Ruffin. First, I just want to say I'm against this building. My main concern is we don't want to pay for it. At this point, it appears it's $500,000 over budget. Originally, we were told the $1.5 million. That's what it would stay within, and this will obviously have to be paid in dues or assessments. The budget needs to be scaled back and the design to be only for what is needed, which originally was the fact that we needed a spot for the service equipment. And this should not be put in a location that blocks people's views, and especially for those that paid premiums for their lots. I feel like that it needs to go back to the original location that was proposed, which Steve had mentioned, the Toll Brothers area, where it's not blocking views of the mountains, it's not in someone's backyard. The other concern is the amount of time that this will be under construction and interfering with residents' lives. I'm a resident across the street from Pathfinder Park, and the building project that they've been working on there has been going on for over 2 years, and it's still not completed. And so if that gives anything of what this might turn into, it would be a long time. So I hope the council can understand these major concerns that we have and not allow this current proposal to go forward.
Okay, and we have 3 individuals on the call-in line.
David, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. My name is David Cipher. I am one of the property owners in this community, and I am speaking against this building. I'll be referencing the project narrative provided to the community that is dated May 5th, 2023. I have 2 main objections to this particular proposal, and that is location and cost. Regarding the location, I do not believe this to be the best use of the, and I quote here, the limited amount of space available at this site, end quote. I believe that future projects that we've discussed, like an actual clubhouse or an expansion of the underdeveloped pool, would be far better uses of this limited space. Now, I understand that these larger projects are not considered at this time, but moving forward with this proposal would eliminate any future possibilities of ever seeing these to fruition because, once again, the, quote, limited amount of space available at this site. The reason the applicant talked about us referencing this as a maintenance building is because at one time that was communicated as a major reason for this building. they were previously very clear that this building was not a clubhouse. Exhibit A within the narrative document discusses the alternative locations, and the current proposed location in comparison, I believe it has the maximum impact on residents. I believe that it's closest to property owners in the area and requires redeveloping existing amenities, such as the existing lawn that I can see out my window. I see families and pets playing there on a regular basis. This location also disrupts the views of abutting property owners, and the other locations would have reduced impact on the residents. My next objection is in regards to the cost of the proposal. The reason the other locations were ruled out was around cost, more specifically the cost of the water and sewer. My understanding is that the current proposal has similar water and sewer issues that had previously ruled out other locations. The applicant presenter mentioned that it's not the same issue, but the bottom line is the same. It's leading to an inflating cost at its current location. Exhibit C within the narrative document discusses the survey that the committee distributed. From the committee's own survey, it shows the community's strong objection to additional assessments, additional dues, or additional fees to pay for this project.
David, your time is up.
91.8%. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Nicholas. Nicholas, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. Nicholas French at 23831 East Meadow Drive. I am not an abutting property, although I've been in the community for over 3.5 years. My opposition to the community center is that the applicant has misled the city and the community along with other ethical issues. First off, it has misled the city. In the July meeting minutes, a committee member specifically sought options to bypass the city's other committees to expedite the process. They have communicated to the city and even tonight that this is a multi-purpose space. However, as you've heard earlier tonight, it has been changed as far as the narrative from a maintenance facility, a storage facility, office spaces, which an office space is still present, and even sleeping quarters for their employees. The space is to meet the NAC2 guidelines as a gathering space for year-round events. UDO defines an activity center as a community-scaled planning area, yet less than 5% of this community would be able to use this facility at any given time. The city has been misled through all of the different filings and even tonight. The community's been misled. We were told that this community center would be similar to other Southeast Aurora communities, such as Whispering Pines, South Shore, Callion's Reach, all of which have true clubhouses, not anywhere close to what has been proposed by the applicant today. Also, the Q&A that the Metro Board sent out was deliberately misleading to try to gain approval in their favor. However, as you can see in their own results, the large majority of residents do not approve. I submitted the first Q&A at which the board objected to the results and refused to listen to 125 applicants. The board has decided to selectively pick what data fits their narrative. And Mr. Forsman was right tonight. The city does their diligence. Yet the city can't do their diligence if they're intentionally being misled. The Metro District is trying to undercut the city in what their role is to proceed with a 6-year objective that is personal to some former board presidents. Just to circle back to Steve's presentation, the underlying issue is that this community center should be free of conflict. And obviously, as you've seen tonight, it is not. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Pamela. Pamela, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, I want to make sure that you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for listening to our objections. I am Pamela Severson. I live on Zante Street, a block away from the pool area. And I've lived here for 12 years. And when I first moved in here, I was promised a community center with a fitness center, you know, a pool, compared to, and at the time, Talon's Reach, Whispering Pines, South Shores didn't exist. So it was compared to the pool at Stonegate and a community center that was in Littleton, all of which has not happened. And when they first started building the pool, I actually went out and measured the lanes, and they aren't even regulations. So kids in the community, they were part of the swim team, could not even practice in our pool. So, so I vehemently oppose this community center, and as many people have stated, it has changed names from a service center to a maintenance center to a community center to a service center, etc. The biggest objection that I have, I would love to see a community center in this neighborhood. It's a great neighborhood. However, the location is an issue, and what's being proposed, if you look at that 4,500 square feet, over a third of it is dedicated to the garage area. And if I was a neighbor that lived there and had to listen to a snowblower or a cat or something get up at 5:30 in the morning to do the sidewalks and whatever, I would be very angry. And the proposal that the community had stated was to go to the Toll Brothers site. And the objection, like you have heard, was because of the cost. And now what we're hearing is the cost is going to be in the same neighborhood because the sewer line and the electrical and everything that is in the pool areas are not going to be sustainable for this new little building. So I would like to see us come together as a community and work with the district because throughout 12 years, not just the last 5 or 7, last 12 years, it has been misleading all along. And I would really ask the council to not approve this and have us come back to the drawing board as a community and the district to come up with something that is approved by the people that live in the neighborhood.
Pamela, your time is up.
Thank you for your time.
That was the last speaker.
Council members may now ask questions of the applicant or the appellant. Councilmember Bergen.
Thank you. If I could start with staff first. Obviously, we saw in the presentation that it met all the UDO code, the zoning, and so forth. So my question is, in the original documents of the master plan, it says that that particular location was designated in a C, which I guess is Neighborhood Activity Center, PA-12. So that was from the original document, is that true?
Thank you for the question, council member. So yes, so the site is located in parcel 12 of the Rocking Horse Master Plan, and it is designated as a NAC Park 2. So that's a Neighborhood Activity Center Park 2. It was part of the original code before the 2019 update, and it was called a Neighborhood Activity Center.
Okay, so when these homes were being sold, and I guess the real estate person that represented the sale of the home, would they have, I mean, they could have known that if they looked at the documents.
Correct, yes.
Which is sad because it sounds like some people were not informed of what could possibly go in there and were deceived to think it was open space. So my question then has, because it's come up multiple times on the location, this was again, designated for that use. The other location or other locations that are being discussed tonight or as a potential proposal, if that was an option, would they have to rezone that?
Thank you for the question. So with the application, it came in parcel 12. So part of staff's review was not exploring other sites. So I'm going to defer to the applicant to explain the process of the other sites.
Okay, well, because typically, if it's not designated for a neighborhood activity center in the other sites, I believe it would have to go through a longer process to get designated that way. And then one of the things that came up was the committees that were bypassed. I thought they said from the city. Can you talk to that? Because my understanding is this only went through administrative approval, and normally when everything is met, UDO standards, zoning, and so forth, we, as a city, the process is to go through administrative approval. If beyond that there was a need for a rezoning or a need for a waiver of substantial need, it would then go to the Planning Commission and then to council. But in this particular case, it did not need to go to Planning Commission because it met those conditions. So were there any committees bypassed?
No committees were bypassed. This is in zone R1 sub-area C with no adjustments. Therefore, it could be an administrative decision by the planning director.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, may I ask the applicant?
Please proceed.
Okay, and for the applicant, also what's come up a couple times is the debt. So I know costs are escalating in terms of construction and so forth, so that happens no matter what. Can you address the dues? I know Holly mentioned that they've been held flat, and then your mill levy, you did a refinance that actually saved money. So can you just address, is this going to be a significant cost to residents?
Thank you for the question. The answer is no. It'll be, when we refinance the debt, as Carly said, the most significant inflationary environment in the past half century, we've kept dues flat for 5 straight years. Last year, we put $750,000 back in the pockets of our residents because of our refinancing, which was one of the primary objectives of our refinancing was to secure the funds to do this building. And we were very public about that when we went to the bond market. And so, as Holly said, we've got an overflow for contingencies for the project. The project site, or the project budget has not at this point increased. We were at the committee meeting last week, and we're at about 50% architectural drawings, which is when we would go for a cost estimate. And that's our intent. What is being left out of this conversation is, I think that the folks who are saying the budget is going to increase, that was a presentation by our resident finance committee at our last city council meeting. They put long-range plans together. Their job is to be conservative, right? And we've always told people, we've kept dues flat, we've kept assessments flat, and that we will have to increase them. But it's not because of this building. It's because of general inflation, and we're accepting more tracks from the developer. So okay. Any dues increase would not be attributed to the building.
Okay, and then also what came up were the changes in the use over time. Were those changes because of resident input with your 20 whatever meetings that you had, or was there another reason for the changes in that?
Thank you. That's a great question. It's an evolution of a project. What you're seeing, unfortunately, if you take a moment in time from 2 years ago, right, it's a different project than you see today. And that's because of those meetings, because of resident feedback, because of budgetary constraints, because of topography in the community. Everything worked together to shape the project you see today. There's no dishonesty going on here. It's sad that folks think that, but this has been an incredibly open process. Every change has been documented, it's been discussed, and most of the changes that you see are direct responses to resident
Okay,
input.
and it's about a 5,000 square foot
4,500 square feet.
building?
It's equivalent to, if you count the basements, the homes that are adjacent.
Yeah, I mean, I live in Towns Reach. Our clubhouse is quite small, in my opinion. We can hardly get 40 people in there. How many people do you think you can have in your community room?
I think Jen would probably be the person to ask that.
It's approved for 75 people, so the maximum occupancy of the room would be 75 people.
Okay, all right. And then also just the location. So that's come up also several times. Why not pick a different location? I think what was stated was obviously it's approved where it is right now, but then the sewer and any other infrastructure needs would and I asked staff, but would you have to go through a different process to move it? And then what would be the cost for additional infrastructure to be able to put it in a different location?
Yeah, when the committee evaluated the alternative sites, we did a line item cost estimate for each location, and that included that in the one case that people talk about, the old Toll Brothers site, which is actually zoned, it's open space right now.
Oh, okay.
It was there as a temporary building that Toll Brothers was required to move. So that site was 400 feet, and when Toll Brothers was using it, they were using a cistern. So we would have had to extend a city sewer 400 feet at a cost about 40, I don't remember the exact number on there, but that added quite a bit to the cost of the project. Plus, the site was too small for the proposed building, and it was going to require additional fill and retaining walls to minimize the impact on the drainage channel that it was on. And again, it was open space like the other sites that were considered, so they would have required a replat and a revision of the master plan.
Yeah, and if it's open space, it would require a rezone.
Yes.
Obviously, for those that don't know, it's a very lengthy process. Okay, and then the changes that were made. You mentioned that you changed the orientation of the building so that to hopefully not obstruct mountain views. And then you did reduce the footprint, I believe?
So the building footprint's been reduced 35%. The height of the building is 18 feet plus 10 feet of grade separation, right? And then it's 82 feet from the fence line, 116 feet from the nearest structure. And then the L shape, Jen can comment more on the L shape, but the L shape is designed to, put the skinny end next to the residence, and we prioritize the view to the west of the mountains over the parking lot and the.
And was that done in reaction to some of the comments that you received from your residents?
Yes.
And
Okay.
also, part of it is that we really, as a community center, we wanted that large multi-purpose room to open up onto the green space so that we could have events and other activities that could combine sort of an indoor-outdoor flow between those spaces.
Okay, all right. Thank you. And then just for the appellant, the survey that was done on Facebook, do you know how many people actually, you can show percentage, but do you know the number of people that actually responded?
I'm sorry,
On Facebook, the survey on Facebook, how many people actually responded?
I want to say it was around 200 people.
Okay, all right. Thank you. That's all for me.
Further questions of staff, the applicant or the appellant?
Mayor.
Councilmember Coombs.
So for staff, just one brief question. Would the NAC designation, is that something that has to have a building, or could the current, well, there is a building currently there, but could the current kind of pool house and park area also fit that designation?
Thank you for the question. Yes, it could.
Okay, so it doesn't have to have like a whole big clubhouse on it to meet that designation?
Correct.
Okay, and then for the applicant, I guess, So I spend actually a lot of time in Inspiration. My sister lives there, and I have a number of friends there. And then I've actually some other friends that are associated with the board. So I've heard perspectives from both sides, but the vast majority of people that I've heard from, that I know living there in Inspiration, do not want this. So my question is really, like, I do feel like council is kind of being put in the middle of a dispute that it's really up to you all to resolve with your residents. Why would you spend $2 million on something that your residents don't seem to actually want you to build? That part doesn't make sense, right? All the questions about the zoning, that's our job to address, is when there's a zoning issue. So why has it gotten to the point that you all are continuing to push forward with something that so many of your residents are so strongly opposed to?
Thank you. I appreciate that question. I mean, the answer is that you hear from people who don't want something. And the fact that it took scores of resident volunteers years to bring this to this place says that there is a significant portion of the community that wants a facility of some kind. The facility you see is not the one I would design if I were doing it myself. Probably not the one Rick would do, probably not the one any individual. Definitely not some of the individuals that you heard tonight. It's a compromise, right? There are some people that want a more lavish clubhouse, which is outside of our budget. There's some people who want a straight maintenance facility, right? Or a place to put the tractors. This is a compromise. This is a project that probably nobody is thrilled with, but that will get used when it is completed. And, you know, if it had been built by the developer as it was intended, it would have been done and it would have been what we had. So unfortunately, you hear from people who don't want something to happen, and it's a relatively small group. What you don't hear from are the people who actually worked years and years to make it happen, went out and got the money to pay for it, and lowered costs to their neighbors in the meantime, right? If you look at how, you know, a community evolves, you know, the average person stays in their home 8 years. Right? We started this process 6 years ago. So there's a whole bunch of people who've left. There's a whole bunch of people who moved in. You're constantly starting from scratch every year, right? On my block, of the my 10 closest neighbors, 6 of them are not original owners, right? So you are always going to have people who come in mid-process and say, wait, I didn't know about this. I don't like it. But you have to move forward, right? You're building a thing for 10 years from now, 20 years from now, not a year from now.
Oh, I have a question to the applicant. When was the last time I suspect that the board has staggered elections. When was the last election for the board, and how many members were up?
May.
How many positions were up? So this last May?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the May, that was when my term ended, and 3 new members were elected.
How many total members are on the board?
There's 5 of us, and they're all residents. So in the 6 years that I served, we went from 1 resident, me, to all 5 residents. We went from developer to control to resident control.
Okay. And what was the vote in terms of supporting this on the board?
It's unanimous.
Unanimous. And so, you know, let me just say that homeowners associations are the first echelon of American government, and they are duly elected members of their community, and they made a decision, and we're second-guessing that decision tonight. Further questions of the staff, the applicant, or the appellant?
Mayor.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you. I guess to the applicant, since we were talking about the elections, what was the turnout for your board elections? Do you know?
I don't know the number offhand, but we do have a very active and engaged community.
Okay, I'd like to know a little more about that. And I guess I'm looking at your plan here. In the backup, it says that 62% of the building space is for community space, 28% is for maintenance, and I'm going to contest that. I think that's very, very charitable. I think when you look at the floor plan, about 44.4% of the usable space is for maintenance, and about 55.6% is for community space, because y'all are counting common corridors and some other things in here that I think should not be tossed into community use. And I guess I want to ask, how much feedback did your community really have in terms of the overall floor plan? Because some of this really, like, frankly, the office looks shoehorned in. to a corner.
It is. I mean, our original plan on the Rocking Horse Parkway site had 3 offices. What we heard from residents is they didn't want it to be an office building. So we've got a small office there that is smaller than the walk-in closets of adjacent homes, and it's meant for our recreational staff when they're there to have a place for programming and keeping their books. It's not meant as a full-time, we contract our management services. It's not meant for that to be their office. It's meant for when someone is on site for them to work there. And I would argue that the pool storage area, that does support recreational activities. That's where we keep our cornhole boards, our pool chairs, our floaties, things like that.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, sir. And I guess my last question for y'all is, have you considered just putting this on the ballot in your district if it's so contentious, and just letting the residents actually make the decision?
We did not. Because if it was a project that required us to incur additional debt, that would have been something that we had done. This is a project that, like I said, lowered people's property taxes by anywhere from $750 to $900 last year. We look at, we had a ballot measure on our ballot in May on removing quarterly assessments and raising our mill levy cap. It failed. If you look at how people use recreational amenities, we couldn't get 50% for any of our amenities, right? There's more people that never use our pool than use it frequently. The only amenity in our community that is used by a majority are our trail network, right? But every amenity has a constituency that is real and engaged, but no amenity other than our trails has a majority of support in the community. And that's backed up by, other surveys we've done.
All right, thank you.
And prior to the last vote in May, the election in May, the public was well aware, the homeowners were well aware of this issue, were they not?
Absolutely. It's been an active point of conversation in our community for 18 months. I mean, nowhere near the amount of conversation we had about our dog park a year and a half ago, but it's close.
I'm going to add Mayor Laguerre to the applicant list. Mayor Laguerre, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I just wanted to answer the question from Councilmember Marcano about the election. The election was held in May of this year, and there were 3 seats open, as was mentioned. I was one of the candidates. Doug Paris, who's my neighbor down the street, was one of the candidates, and Holly Svets was a returning candidate. She was on the board and was running for a 3rd term, or a 2nd term, or another term, I should say. So Doug Paris and myself were the new residents. I can tell you that I received it was just right around 1,031 votes.
Wow.
Out of a community of 1,700 homes. And Doug Paris, I believe it was somewhere around 1,100, or maybe Holly was around 1,100. But bottom line is, I got the least amount of votes, and it was 1,031.
Well, that's not encouraging.
Because I still won. The main point I wanted to make in answering that question is that I cannot recall a single resident calling me and saying, "How are you going to vote on this community building?" that had been in process for more than 5 years. So I think that's the important factor. If there was this groundswell of people opposed to this and they had an election before them, shouldn't they have asked the candidates, where do you stand on this? I don't recall a single question in that area.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Very well. Further questions of staff, the applicant, or the appellant? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. I'm sorry. Ouch. Public hearing is now open. Closing comments from the applicant and the appellant, limited to 3 minutes each. Okay, so let's see. We'll start with the applicant.
Okay. I don't know that I have 3 minutes of closing arguments to make. I think that what we've seen tonight is a microcosm of, like you said, the community is the lowest form of government, right? But it's the most direct, it's the most engaged. I saw Steve in the men's room and, said hi to him. We try to be good neighbors. We don't agree. We're trying to do the right thing. None of us get paid. We're trying to do the right thing by our community for 10 years from now, not next year, right? And unfortunately, we look at the world, like this all the time. We see, instead of seeing 180 degrees on either side of us, we look at things through frames and lenses and through screens, and we get worked up. We perpetuate bad information. I would argue that there's a sizable number of people in this community that still think we're proposing to build a garage right next to the pool or a heavy machinery shop. We're not. That's been passed around, and probably why some people oppose the project. If you look at the totality of data that the board has, that the community has access to, this is a good project that makes sense in this location. Again, it's for the children of inspiration who haven't been born yet, right? It's not going to fit everybody. It's not going to be a place, no venue in the city of Aurora fits everybody in Aurora. No venue in any community fits everybody in the community. It's meant to be a small community center where people can come together and look at each other face to face and treat each other like neighbors, right? And yeah, we're going to store our gator in there. So that we can keep the trails that everybody likes and everybody agrees on, free of snow, free of dust. We get a lot of silting. So I would say, it's unfortunate that we are here tonight, because the world has a lot more things to worry about. Everybody here is going to go home to a warm bed with a full belly. We're not sleeping in a bus shelter or a bomb shelter tonight. This is a definite first world problem that we're talking about tonight. And all we're trying to do is build something that brings people together. And right now it has divided people. It's divided people because there's a lot of bad information out there and a lot of cherry picking of information and saying, oh, it's this, as opposed to it's whatever we want it to be. It's whatever the people who inhabit it every day make it, right? If it's for somebody's bar mitzvah, that's what it is that day. If it's for a birthday party, that's what it is that day. If it's for a yoga class, that's what it is. But it's meant to bring all of us together in a place where we can look each other in the eye, treat each other as neighbors, not yell at each other on Facebook, not scream at each other, in online forums, but to be neighbors. And that's something that's missing from our community. It's a wonderful place to live, as everybody you heard here say. We're just trying to build something that brings people together, and hopefully we can get over the division that we have right now. And once the project is complete, it will fulfill its role. So thank you.
Thank you. 3 minutes for the appellant.
Yes, Mayor. The appellant actually is Tom Hawes, and he's been on the phone trying to talk all evening. So we're trying to get him queued up to talk for 3 minutes.
There's no time.
Yes, can you hear me, Steve?
Yes.
Oh. So is that his 3 minutes?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, you can't hear me. I'm sorry. It's a little difficult. I think the point that I want to make to this board is that what Steve said about the purpose of the building is not just opinion or conjecture. It was literally supplied directly by the board. Anytime you do a project, it's important to reference what the building is to be used for. And we have cold, hard facts that the board intended this building to be a place of business. That's the frustration by all of us right now, and I don't think enough has been done, frankly, to address security. We've had acts of vandalism in that area. We've had our fire pits blown to smithereens. We still can't use those, and I think that we need to take all of those things into account when we're trying to sign on a building that's going to impact every single resident financially and in terms of aesthetics.
Thank you. Public hearing is now closed. Motion is in order.
Mayor, if I could do a quick reminder.
Sure.
So there are a lot of issues presented that relate to the district. My planning attorney is sort of panicking out there and working on the issue, which is tonight is a zoning hearing. So the issue is, does it comply with the UDO criteria? And secondly, does it meet the standards set forth in the Rocking Horse Master Plan? That's what council's considering, are the zoning issues tonight.
Motion is in order.
Mayor.
Councilmember Zavonic.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to uphold the planning director's decision.
It's been moved to uphold the planning director's decision, the administrative decision. Second, is there a second?
Sundberg.
It's moved by Councilmember Zavonic, second by Councilmember Sundberg. Discussion?
Mayor,
Councilmember Bergen.
thank you. This is really difficult because I represent all of you in Inspiration. You're all my constituents. And so it's really hard for me because I hear, both sides. And as stated by our attorney, we, in this particular situation, we have to look at the facts that are presented in terms of, does this meet code? Does this meet the zoning? Legally, that is our obligation. And as much as I think even Councilmember Coombs stated earlier, it's too bad that there's this disconnect in communication. I wish that there would be better, maybe better communication between both sides. I do commend the applicant for having 20 neighborhood meetings. I've never heard of that ever, and I've been on council 8 years. Typically, 1, 2, 3 maybe. So, that is something that you did that is unprecedented. Again, like I said, I have to go by what our statute tells us in terms of the rules, and it did not go to Planning Commission because there weren't any waivers or exceptions. It was administratively approved. So as much as I empathize with those that are against this, I hope that you actually, the Metro District, will maybe have another neighborhood meeting just to bring community together. I think some people maybe didn't know everything that was going to happen, what the uses were, and so forth. So I do hope that you will have another meeting and that everyone will attend and get the information. Those of you that bought homes at a premium, I am so sorry because somebody misrepresented the sale to you. They should have never told you that it was open space when it wasn't. And unfortunately, things like that sometimes happen. So again, I just, I feel, and it's a hard position for me to be in, but I have to go by what's legally required of me.
Further discussion?
Mayor.
Councilmember Coombs.
So yeah, obviously we have to make the decision based on the city code. We cannot do otherwise, even if we all voted to decline or to oppose staff's recommendation. We could just be sued and have that decision overturned because that's our role in this situation. That being said, I do think it's disappointing that the applicant didn't try to maybe get a vote of the community instead of simply surveys to decide how to move forward with this. And I would urge you to not actually go forward with the actual building process until you have some better consensus from your community about what they actually want to do. With that said, we have to vote to uphold the planning decision because it does meet all of the code requirements.
Further discussion? Seeing none, question before us is the adoption of item number 12A. Call for the question. Ooh.
Mayor Kaufman.
Mayor votes yes.
The motion passes to adopt item 12A.
Thank you.
Would the clerk now please read the title to item number 13A?
Item 13A is introduction of ordinance 2023-46, amending sections 134-2C4, 134-2C5, 134-37A20, 134-356, 134-358, and 134-425A7 of the City Code and Colorado Model Traffic Code Section 1204 as adopted by the City of Aurora pertaining to the regulation and enforcement of the parking of vehicles in the city.
A brief presentation by staff.
Hi, thank you. Scott Bauman, Parking Manager within Public Works. Earlier this year, City of Denver amended their ordinance pertaining to regulation and enforcement of parking of vehicles on their streets. City Code is requested to be amended to make the city's ordinance pertaining to the regulation and enforcement of the parking of vehicles on the city's public right-of-ways and streets to be at least as strict as Denver's ordinance. Some of the city's current ordinances were stricter than Denver's current ordinances and require no change. The proposed amendment result in increased regulation and response to parking patterns across the city, and specifically include authorizing the impoundment of an unlawful vehicle parked on the public right-of-way more than 24 hours rather than 48 hours after being cited for being an unlawful vehicle. Secondly, the weight limit for semi-trailers, tractors, and commercial vehicles in excess of 22 feet in length is reduced from 6,000 pounds from the previous 7,000 pounds to be consistent with the current city's UDO and with the City of Denver's weight limits. Lastly, recreational vehicles can be parked on the public right-of-way for no more than 24 hours during any 7-day period, rather than the previous 5-day period. The changes to the city code will be operationalized by the Public Works Department and the Aurora Police Department.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, can somebody speak to the changes that were made from when it was introduced to the current version?
Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt. We have an individual from the public that would like to speak.
Oh, very well. Okay.
Robbie DeYoung.
Mayor, Council. First of all, I'd like to say I've been sitting over there. I have cameras inside my house, and one of my dogs tore up one of my chairs. So I've got cotton everywhere. In the state of Arizona, they have a free service called Zip-Tow. And for any abandoned vehicle, Zip-Tow in the state comes out and picks up the vehicle. And there's no charge for that service. That's something we should look into. Let me explain something that I've just learned. Not only are abandoned vehicles a risk to the community because children play in abandoned vehicles, other people rob from abandoned vehicles, and then you also have the problems of abandoned vehicles leaking fluids and going into our drainage systems. If they're parked on a curb right next to a drain, that's where the fluids go to, into our systems. Okay, that's something to keep in mind. You also have to keep in mind those abandoned vehicles are in the way of our snowplows. Those abandoned vehicles are distractions for people driving down the street because most of them are damaged. Now, I also found out something extremely interesting. There are auction houses where vehicles are sold at auction. I was made aware by a police officer, not going to give you his name or anything, but he used to do this type of work. And those vehicles are often abandoned vehicles coming from these auction houses. They can't get rid of the vehicle for whatever reason, so they just leave it. somewhere, hoping somebody will either vandalize it, take it away, steal it, or whatever is necessary. These are vehicles that are left because somebody can't afford to fix them. They are vehicles that are left because somebody has what do I want to call it? They haven't paid their bill on their vehicle, so their vehicle is going to be repossessed. So rather than just giving the keys to the company that is going to repossess their vehicle, they'll just take it and put it out on the street. So we have to keep in mind that this is a pyramid. This is an iceberg where we can only see the tip of it and don't have any real idea how much goes on underneath an abandoned vehicle. As far as the trailers are concerned, just real quick, I used to own one, so that's a little sticking point with me, but pure abandoned vehicles is another story.
Is there anybody else who wishes to speak on this?
No.
I think, didn't George? Yeah, George worked on that.
Yes, Mayor. From the last presentation from 2 weeks ago, we had some changes to the original ordinance. We addressed some council concerns. 2 changes specifically were adjusted. The first one was we renamed the conversion vans to camper vans. That's the more industry term used out there. We also addressed the question about the pickup trucks with the toppers, campers, those type of things. Those aren't really recreational vehicles. We made that clear now in here. You know, it's more looking at the RVs with the drop-in shelves with the beds and the windows and all that stuff. So we did take away and clarify that you know, pickup trucks with the toppers in the back are not classified as recreational vehicles.
George, do you have anything to add?
The language was just used to, the language written was used to exempt those vehicles. So.
Okay, very well. Questions of staff? Seeing none, thank you very much. Motion is in order.
Mayor, motion to approve 13A.
It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by?
Bergenski.
Seconded by Councilmember Bergen to approve item number 13A. Further discussion?
Mayor.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, sir. I just want to express my gratitude for the amendments that were made.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, call for the question on the adoption of item number 13A.
The motion passes to adopt ordinance 2023-46.
Will clerk now please do the title to item number 13B?
Item 13B is introduction of ordinance 2023-49, amending sections 5101, 5102, and 5104, and adding sections 5103 and 5105 to the city code pertaining to the Judicial Performance Commission.
A brief presentation by staff.
Mayor, I do believe Ms. Candace Atkinson is on WebEx.
Is Mrs. Atkinson available?
Well, Mayor, City Council, this was brought by Councilmember Coombs. It's to make the Judicial Performance Commission more transparent with the judge evaluations that are done when a judge is being reappointed. It is also for future, in case or when the city of Aurora becomes city and county of Aurora. It will help with residents to know whom and why they're voting for their judges to be reappointed.
Mayor, can I make a brief
Councilmember
comment?
Coombs.
Thank you. So, yes, pretty straightforward. Some of the work that we did in the process was I did sit down with most of the judges and Judge Day, and with Candace to just discuss how this would be implemented, made some changes due to some concerns that judges had. But really, the intent is to compile a summary report similar to what you would get in your blue book about judges at the state level at this time. So not the thick book that we get delivered to us currently. Rather than producing that report, they would instead produce summary reports that look more like the blue book that would then be available online so that members of the public can have a better idea of how our judges are performing. And that's, again, in the future, they may be voting, but in the meantime, we still vote on the appointment of our judges. And so if folks do learn of a really concerning situation with a judge, they have access to us as their representatives and can tell us if they think we should vote otherwise rather than to appoint a particular judge.
Further questions of staff or the sponsor? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Mayor.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, sir. To approve 13B.
It's been moved by Councilmember McConnell, seconded by?
Coombs.
Seconded by Councilmember Coombs. Discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of item number 13B. Call for the question.
The motion passes to adopt introduction of ordinance 2023-49.
Would the clerk now please read the title to item number 13C?
Item 13C is introduction of ordinance 2023-50, accepting the final determination of sufficiency of the citizen-initiated petition for the 2023 proposed charter amendment and finding the petition failed to meet the timeline for the November 2023 election.
Brief presentation by staff.
Yes. Katie Rodriguez, City Clerk. This item is for the citizen-initiated charter amendment that was proposed for the November 7th, 2023 election. For some background, the final petition sections were submitted to the City Clerk's office on June 26, and the initial determination of sufficiency stating the petition submitted a sufficient number of valid signatures was issued on July 25th. Registered electors had from July 26th through August 14th, 20 days after the initial determination of sufficiency, to file a written protest under oath with the City Clerk. These hearings were held from August 15th through August 30th, and the decision for all protest hearings was rendered on September 11th. The timelines for the protests and hearings are all set forth in City Code. The final determination of sufficiency has been issued, stating that all petitioners submitted a sufficient number of valid signatures. The City Code requires the clerk to present this petition to council at a regular special meeting within 30 days of issuing the final determination. The next steps in the City Code is for the petition to be placed on the ballot if all constitutional, statutory, and municipal ordinance deadlines have been met. Since the petition was not completed before the ballot certification deadline, which was set by state statute and was September 8th, the petitioners did not meet the requirements of the City Code. The ordinance being presented allows council to make the findings that the petitioners did not meet the deadlines to place this charter amendment initiative on the November 7th, 2023 ballot, and therefore council cannot take any further action on this petition.
Is there any further presentation by staff?
No.
Questions?
Questions.
Very well. Questions of staff? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Mayor, motion to approve 13C.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by?
Coombs.
Seconded by Councilmember Coombs. Further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of item number 13C. Call for the question.
The motion passes to adopt the introduction of ordinance 2023-50.
Clerk, now please read the title of item number 15A.
Item 15A is finalizing of ordinance 2023-47, annexing a parcel of land located in Section 7, Township 3 South, Range 64 West of the 6th Principal Meridian, County of Adams, State of Colorado, 653.12 acres.
Okay. We'll have one presentation on item number 15A, 15B, and 15C. They are all related. Presentation by staff.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. For the record, Jacob Cox, Manager, Office of Development Assistance. A petition for annexation was filed with the City Clerk for annexation of a 653-acre parcel owned by Chelsea Investments. This parcel is located generally at the corner of 56th Avenue and Bowden Road. Vicinity map is in your backup materials. City Council made a finding of substantial compliance on this annexation on August 14th, 2023. The annexation follows state law, and this is the third of those 3 City Council meetings. Tonight's agenda, in which City Council considers the second reading of the annexation and initial zoning ordinances. The zoning proposed is AD, which follows the comprehensive plan and considers the annexation agreement this evening. The proposed annexation agreement follows the city model language per city policy. I'll note that we do have outside representatives, but they do not have a separate presentation, so I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Questions of staff on item number 15A, 15B, and 15C? Seeing none, a motion is in order on item number 15A.
Mayor, motion to approve 15A.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by?
Sundberg.
Seconded by Councilmember Sundberg to approve item number 15A. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, the question before us is adoption of item number 15A. Call for the question.
The motion passes to adopt the finalization of ordinance 2023-47.
Will clerk now please read the title to item number 15B?
Item 15B is finalizing of ordinance 2023-48, zoning approximately 656.76 acres of land, more or less, generally located at the northwest corner of Bowden Road and East 56th Avenue, County of Adams, State of Colorado, to Airport District, and amending the zoning map accordingly.
Motion is in order.
Mayor, motion to approve 15B.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by?
Jurenski.
Councilmember Jurenski. To approve item number 15B. Discussion. Seeing none, call for the question on the adoption of item number 15B. No.
I think the building is telling us to get out.
Call for the question.
The motion passes to adopt the finalizing of ordinance 2023-48.
Could staff please describe the music?
No comment.
Would the clerk please read the title to item number 15C?
Item 15C is consideration of annexation agreement to the City of Colorado, City of Aurora, Colorado, and Chelsea Investments, LLC. It's been a long night.
Motion is in order.
Mayor, motion to approve 15C.
Moved by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by?
Okay. All right.
Seconded by Councilmember Medina to approve item number 15C. Discussion. Call for the question on the adoption of item number 15C.
Mayor Kaufman.
Mayor votes yes.
The motion passes to adopt item 15C.
Reports, I have a town meeting at the Aurora Central Library on October 21st from 2 o'clock to 3:30. Councilmember Lawson.
Evidence-based practices, thank you, to conduct outreach and develop recommendations by March 1st on forming an entity or entities, similar to the Colorado Commission on Criminal and Juvenile Justice, which was not extended last year. 7 new laws in Colorado go into effect this month pertaining to public safety. And as a reminder, the Pfizer Committee will be meeting on Friday, October 20th at 1.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Gardner.
No report.
See, Councilmember Jurenski.
Yes, I would just like to report, if you would like to help in aid to the IDF or to the people of Israel, Jewish Colorado is leading that effort. So if you go to their website, Jewish Colorado, you can make a donation there. Thank you.
Councilmember Zvonik.
No report.
Councilmember Murillo.
No report.
Let's see, Councilmember Sundberg.
Thank you, sir.
I behaved myself at the AEDC of A-List event. It's pretty spectacular. A number of us gathered for the Amazon gifting of $15,000 in tech equipment to Laredo and Altura. What a great bunch of young people, 2nd to 4th graders there. Attended the APD Awards, and Chris Parente from Channel 2 News was there, did a fantastic job. One of those rare journalists, Mayor, that actually support the police and want to point out the positive stories of our cops. Thank God for him. And you're just reminded of thousands of positive outcomes that the police are involved in to serve our community every year, so thank you to them. And finally, I have a town hall, October 19th, Central Rec Center, 6:30 p.m. Council member at large, Danielle Jurinsky, will be in attendance to conduct the meeting with me, talking about a staffing update for APD, CRT program, and road improvements, sir.
Councilmember Medina.
Thank you, Mayor. I had my town hall last Wednesday where we talked about the youth violence program. We had pretty good attendance on that, just to kind of inform people on the program. And then also on Saturday, we had a pretty successful recruiting effort for police over at Compare grocery store off of 6th and Sable, where we were trying to get young people to sign up to become police officers. And we got a pretty good hit there, and the recruiters are going to probably come back again and do another site there. So.
Councilmember McConnell.
All right, thank you, Mayor. My final Ward 4 meeting is going to be on Thursday, October 12th at 6:30 p.m. at Colorado Early Colleges. We're going to be featuring a candidate forum, so come out with your questions, grill all the folks who are running for office, and we'll also have some treats for y'all, so from Cuba Bakery, so hope to see y'all there.
Councilmember Coombs.
My final Ward 5 Town Hall meeting will be on October 18th at 6 p.m. at the Heather Gardens Clubhouse.
Councilmember Bergen.
Thank you, Mayor. And again, wanted to extend my thoughts and prayers to the people of Israel and condemn the horrific terrorist acts of violence. I attended, or I actually had the Region 9 opioid meeting this past week, and we did approve the RFP, so monies will be dispersed soon by the county, and then we're going to start on our next tranche of year 2 funding that goes into year 18. And I think that's, and there was a press conference today by the chief that was at 11 o'clock to talk about the incident at Southlands as well as just overall crime. So that's it. Thank you.
Mayor, I apologize. My
Councilmember
meeting is
Cruz.
actually the 17th, not the 18th.
Very well. I think this is the first city council meeting for the city of Aurora where we've had bumper music, and so I really appreciate that. Thanks, everybody. Meeting adjourned.